Hello, folks. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Joel Duggan, and we've got a special one for you today. If you are new, then this is going to be a build tour of Westhill, which is the medieval town that I've been building in Minecraft for the last 4.5 years, almost 5, actually. And I'll keep this brief because we're going to be joined by Pixlriffs, my friend Johnny. He is also the co-host of the SpongeChunks podcast with me. We've been doing that for the last 7 years, and this project has been a big part of me talking on the SpongeChunks. So it's going to be really fun to get him to actually see it for the first time, and we're going to have a conversation about what it's like to do builds like this, what it takes to do large builds. I think it's going to be a really fun conversation. We are going to try this co-stream thing on Twitch for the first time, so I'm hoping that the chat will be combined and that we can keep track of questions and things like that together. So it should be a good time. Hopefully we'll get over any kind of audio hiccups in the first few minutes. We're going to bring Pixlriffs in on a Discord call. I'm going to adjust the volume to make sure that you all can hear him at the same level you can hear me. You can also click the link right now in the description, the stream title of the stream. You should be able to go and follow Pix and also see his perspective on stream as well. So that's where I'm going to jump in. I'm going to send him a little message and see what's up. Hey,
well,
you joined the game.
It got as far as loading terrain, so
Nice.
I'm in.
Where are you in? That's interesting.
I am next to what looks like an iron farm or some sort of. Oh no, I'm above you. I'm in a tree.
Oh, there you are.
Hello.
I thought people spawned in like right on this spot right here, but I guess Minecraft just picked something nearby.
There's a radius. I'm fairly certain there will be a radius, but oh, look at these lovely environs. Oh well, there's an iron farm up there in the distance. I recognize that.
Oh yeah, this is capturing ender pearls from the end. That's the device that you're looking at. Right. Yeah. I mean, we don't use it anymore, but that's kind of like that was way back when we needed it, and now we don't need it at all. How do I make you admin? What's the command?
I think it's /op, like op.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Oh, great. Perfect.
Yeah. Now you don't have to worry about starving to death, which is nice.
Helpful, yeah.
Yeah. I just switched myself into creative mode, but you can flop back and forth between spectator and creative whenever you want. The one thing that I'll say is that if you're in spectator, you will see the armor stands behind the magic. Like you'll see like a little ghost version of the armor stand. So if you see like an item or something, which could be helpful if you're like, how did Joel do that? Then you might be like, oh, it's an armor stand holding an item floating above a fireplace or something, right? So
yeah,
that could be fun to kind of show that off. So I guess welcome. This is, I mean, I think you've been on here once before, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, I seem to vaguely remember it, but maybe like the fact that I've logged in at spawn, I think maybe like player data has been lost in a shuffle around somewhere.
Yeah,
I seem to remember you were building a barn somewhere, and maybe I logged in to like say hi and help with that or something.
Building
but that's
a barn. Wow.
A distant memory at this point. So
yeah, that was a long time ago. Because that might be like Dartmouth Meadows.
Yeah, I expect it was, because I think the Citadel was sort of fairly young as a server, and the idea of Westhill was sort of a glimmer in your eye at the time, rather than being something you'd actively started on at that point. Yeah,
because the server is 8 years old, and the only reason I remember that is because it's a year older than the SpongeChunks, right? So I just and so I would have had a lot to do in that first 4 years before we got to Westhill, starting in 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, would you want to take the long way? We can go into Dartmouth Meadows and then go into the portal there.
Absolutely, yeah. Show me around for sure.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, obviously, we'll do a full tour of Westhill, but like while we're walking by stuff, this is also the first time that you've seen some other things that I've talked about on the SpongeChunks as well. So, just to our left and right here around the path, we've got the moss farm for the server, and then the revamped iron farm. That was a more recent project, and I'm sure you'll remember.
Yes. This is the Ilmango moss farm?
It is. It's an Ilmango scaled down to like, we only needed 4 modules and his had like 12 or something. Like it's just, the very, very moderate. It pumps everything in here along the water streams. And then the storage is actually just here to the right of the iron farm, the mossy looking build. That's where everything gets sorted and stored and put in the chests and all that kind of stuff. And it's the same with the iron farm. The iron farm is here, and then the storage is kind of like in the hill behind it.
Yeah, I think it is very funny seeing this after 4 years worth of screenshots. You know, it's
Yeah.
really interesting seeing some of this stuff happening, and we can hear the gentle sounds of an iron golem burning in lava in the background.
Yeah. 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 Every once in a while I walk by here and it's like, it's really quiet. And all of a sudden you hear the torment and you're like, oh yes, right. I remember
The
this
clang
is,
clang.
this
Yeah.
is what happens here. So I mean, we can show you, I can show you inside if you want. I don't want to spend too much time here because I know everybody's excited for
Sure.
Westhill.
Yeah.
But this is where all of the items get spat out of water streams above. They slide down the honey blocks and then get stored in the chests for moss and carpets and all that kind of stuff. And then as an overflow protection on the back wall, it's bone meal. So that's all
Right.
bone
Yeah,
meal.
yeah.
So if these chests fill up with all the moss stuff, rather than having items build up here and crash the server, things just get sorted out and sent along and turned into bone meal, which everybody needs anyway, right?
Yeah. And if people in the chat are new to the concept of the Citadel and are seeing some of this for the first time, this is only the the tip of the iceberg as far as attention to detail when it comes to Joel's builds, which you'll see a lot more of when we get to Westhill. But I love the ambience of the place, like the mossy stuff all around here. Obviously, with it being a moss farm output, it makes sense. But then I think it's so fun having the contrast of like honey blocks and moss and everything just all coming together in this one place.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to finally build that with the right kind of stuff. Like we had access to the moss blocks and the glow berries, and it really kind of suited the moss farm to have like a lush cave kind of design.
Mm-hmm.
And then the iron farm just empties out into here, which is just a storage room. And this is where we've got the use of the crafter, where we have just boxes of blocks of iron on the left, and then we've got the poppies are being made into different kind of dyes on the right. So just it's nice to have like that kind of stuff automated.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. This is something I've been meaning to do with my iron farm is have all of the different possible permutations of the ingredients it produces crafted into stuff. Like obviously the iron blocks make sense, but then yeah, I want to have it automatically producing anvils and stuff for me eventually.
Yeah, I can't wait to do something like that in the new zone that I'm going to be talking about on the spawn chunks. Like I've just got all these ideas for crafting contraptions, like things that are just like fun to automate. Not that I need anvils, but like just to be able to make them would be fun, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So it's going to be dark here in a second, so I'm just going to sneak back here and sleep. Oh, I forgot that I'm in creative and I went into the portal.
Yeah, probably don't want to sleep through that. That's not the best idea.
No. It's also taking an eon to load the terrain. Let me just get back out here. All right. I like hiding things behind portals. So
yeah, I was going to say this. I'm not sure if it's the shaders, the resource pack, or anything, but this looks like a fairly opaque portal to me, and I assumed there was just blocks behind it. So it's kind of funny that you've got a secret space back there.
There's blocks behind it, but there's a too high just hole in the wall on the left and the right of the portal. So if you walk through it, you end up coming through on the other side. I've got a bed back here and a bunch of like chests and stuff just for working on this area, and so I'll just sleep here in a second, and that'll give us the daylight we need to get where we need to go. Something I really like about Westhill is arriving first thing in the morning, but hopefully we'll have the right timing. Okay, so we'll just go back out this way.
It's also really funny walking around and seeing an approach to just survival Minecraft that's slightly different from mine, because I rarely, if ever, put stuff like pressure plates by doors. Even on the inside of doors, I'm like, what if a mob walks through here? What if like a zombie pigman comes out of that portal and steps on the trapdoors? And lets a creeper in, and then the next time I come through that portal, the creeper's still there. And so I've always got these little contingencies and stuff in my head. I so rarely end up indulging in the what people in Minecraft might think of as like modern conveniences, like having automatic doors and stuff.
I actually have it in there for that reason, to close the door behind me so I don't forget. in case something comes in behind me. It's just such a nice thing to not have to turn around and close every door. So this is, we're just going to walk through here. This is Dartmouth Meadows, which is the starting spawn town for the server. So this is where myself and Alistair, Megan and MacCast and everybody kind of started with their own little build. So my humble beginnings are this little red barn and log cabin on the right. That's where it all started. And then I have branched out from there, but still come back here for things. Like the other day I needed ghast tears and I was like, oh yeah, I'll come back and get those because I've had those for 8 years and not done anything with them. I now have a use for them.
There's at least one house here I recognize, but that's because I think Alistair built my one chunk
Yes.
medieval house.
100%.
This right
Yeah,
here.
that's that. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's that. He didn't realize in Minecraft like what kind of like it was to give players like some space and some proximity. So he started building his base like directly under my cabin, like one block below. He just started making his own thing. And so it wasn't until years later he thought, you know what? I've learned a lot. I probably should not have built right under Joel. I'm going to move over to the house next door. And then he looked at, by that point, I think we had started the show. And so he was just like, oh, okay, I'll use one of Pixlriffs builds and put it here.
It's time to move out of my friend's basement is a very real like
adult, no kidding, right?
Adult situation.
Yeah. Folks in my chat, is Pixlriffs still quiet? Do you need me to turn him up?
We going through the portal here?
Yes, straight through the portal.
Yeah, great stuff.
Cool.
I was just looking around. I feel like I haven't seen a picture of this portal for a while because presumably it's sort of, you know, a while since it was last built.
Cool. Everybody says it's fine. Awesome. Yeah, this was the first big build that I ever did on the server, which was this the nether portal. It's glass, so it is safe to walk around. But depending on the shader pack and if you've got the connected textures going, then it should feel very, very scary.
Yeah, it does. It really does. I think the other thing I was distracted by, so I didn't even really notice the fact that, yes, we're walking out onto a glass floor. I was distracted by how colorful this looks in the minimap because it's displaying at like the elevation that we're at right now. And so you can see all of the work you've done on the different tunnels leading to various areas and stuff. And I'm not used to working with a minimap in vanilla Minecraft at all, so it's really fun to see that like in the corner and get a quick glimpse at some of the stuff that you've done here.
It's interesting that yours defaulted to show you what it should be, because mine doesn't do that. Mine, I have to go into my map and like actually change the settings to the right Y level. It doesn't do it automatically.
It may just be because this was the height at which I entered the Nether for the first time.
Oh, maybe.
So yeah, that it's choosing the default based on where I first loaded into the dimension.
Interesting. Cool. Well, all of these are just the 4 cardinal directions, and we're going to go north, which is the white area, which is over here. And this will take us to the World Hub. And some people might not be familiar that on the Citadel, we've got a bunch of different build zones. We've got a modern city. We've got what will be a sci-fi zone. We've got this medieval fantasy zone that I'm going to take everybody to. And we use command blocks on the server to teleport people 10,000, 30,000 blocks away. And what that does is allows us to build things like skyscrapers and castles and not have them be right next to each other and not have to constantly say like, oh, is this too close to your thing? Can we like, do we need to go farther away from each other? We can just totally do that. And that's where we are now. This is the world center. So this is the center of the overworld. And then we've got different little glass, quote unquote, portals that'll take us where we need to go. And the fantasy one is over this way. And there's not actually a finished path. We have to kind of like take a quick right here and then take the bridge that Cosmic made, and that will take us to officially to the medieval fantasy zone and Westhill.
I think it's really funny having to think ahead to how expansive you want projects like this to get, and when people see the scale of Westhill, I think they will probably understand like the scale at which you're working. But yeah, like most people are happy just building slightly outside of render distance, but like when you're thinking ahead to when I've been working on this for several years, what does it look like? Like, how expansive is this medieval area going to get? I can see why even the render distance around the project, you don't want to get touched by stuff that's like outside of the build style of the area.
And I ended up increasing my render distance because Westhill is like longer east-west than it is north-south. And I didn't like trying to take screenshots where the buildings just kind of like disappeared. And so I've increased the server render distance and my personal render distance to something like 24 chunks, I think. So just press either button probably, but definitely the one on the right will get you where you need to go.
Great. I'll also, since you mentioned it, up my render distance a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what I have mine on. Survey says 28 chunks is what mine is on, but
wow.
It should be fine at something larger than normal. So this is a build that I did. It's not part of Westhill, but it's definitely part of the medieval area. This is just the arrival area for anybody coming to the medieval fantasy zone. And there's roads that leave in the different directions. So if anybody else on the server wants to build something, they have a place that they can arrive. There's a bed, there's a chest, there's an ender chest, and then they can kind of go forth from here. So if you arrive and it's dark, then it's good to sleep because it's very dark when you're out in the wild around here because only the builds are lit up and everything in between is quite dark. So yeah, it's good to have this kind of stuff. And I think I recently talked about revamping this, coming back to this after a few years and making it finished as part of the checklist and the experience of arriving to Westhill.
Yeah, there's a little observation platform up here, so you can kind of see a bit more of what's around you. But yeah, the real stuff is off away down the path, I imagine.
Yes, and actually, I'll let you lead the way because there is no wrong turn. There's one road, it goes south, you just follow it. And we will eventually get to Westhill. And I've seen it all, so it'll be fun to kind of see your perspective as we get closer to.
The Road Builders Guild on Misadventures would be proud of this all being sort of one connected road. It's so easy to overlook stuff like that and skip over it when you're used to flying around with Elytra and exploring at a much more breakneck pace. I think a lot more survival players tend to rush around everywhere instead of focusing on the journey. They're focused on the destination.
Yeah, one of the things that I was doing a lot when I would go to like repair stuff or get materials is that I just tried not to fly out of Westhill. Like I would fly on other parts of the server, Nether, whatever, just to kind of get someplace faster. Because obviously things in there are not the best to look at. But here I would very often walk this path.
I think we got our first glimpse in the distance.
Oh yes, yeah, it's
like
coming
a little corner of a house or a wall or something, or a tower.
There's keep your eye out for a little offshoot path on the right. It might be worth exploring.
Here we go. Yeah. I remember this as recently as a few episodes ago. Talking about building this little overlook, and here the farms and farmland start to come into view, but the town itself is, for me at least, over there in the mist. I think maybe because I've got just the default installation of the shaders that you're using. I don't know if you've adjusted the fog to be a little bit further away or what the intended view over here is, but chances are if I adjusted some of those settings, I might see Westhill itself in the distance.
Yeah, I've got I think I've got a Bobby mod that separates my render distance from the server, so that could be it too.
Right, yeah.
I'm seeing the front gate for sure, and then a silhouette of the keep in the distance.
Yeah, if I roll back the atmospheric fog, I might get a little bit more of that. But either way, it's fun to leave some stuff to a little bit closer, so maybe we can hop on over there.
If I increase the render distance on the server, do I have to restart the server, or does that just happen?
I think so, but I think honestly, render distance on servers doesn't go beyond a certain amount anyway. Like I'm fairly certain that's capped by the code of the game. But...
Cool. Just give me a second here to thank everyone for the follows, and also give a shout out to Anonymous for the gifted sub to Jumbo Gaming, and thanks very much to Pops Live for the Prime sub. Very much appreciated.
I think it's also quite a shock for people seeing me playing with shaders for the first time in a while, because I do not roll with shaders on Survival Guide at all. I've only used them in recent server projects for like cinematic stuff that I've done with replay mode or flashbacks. So I think it's actually kind of fun seeing some of this stuff happen in glorious lighting and reflections on the water and everything. This is complimentary reimagined.
Yes,
and is a very, very fun and I think at this point very widely used shader pack.
Yeah, I think a lot of people really like it because it has that. For me, it has this weird kind of Minecraft, but also Nintendo vibe, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of bright colors, a lot of big fluffy clouds. I think the clouds being rendered this way is a really neat touch of this shader pack because it feels Minecraft, but with the edges rounded off literally, and it feels a lot more cartoony as a result.
Yeah, I think I don't tend to gravitate to shader packs that have like realistic clouds. I tend to it feels like a weird contrast between the world and the sky, and so I feel like when keeping everything in the same kind of like art direction, it looks a lot nicer.
I'm going to step back from the path here and take a look at some of the bridges as
Sure.
well, because when you're looking at like the walk over a bridge, it's so easy just to see the rails or the walls on either side and the floor of the bridge. But all of these bridges are like fully realized, well constructed. Like they look architectural. They look like they were, actually built to last here. And I think that's an overlooked aspect of a lot of Minecraft builds is you just build something that will get you from A to B. And if you really want the immersion of people being able to explore and do this stuff, you can't like skimp on the details here. You have to get this stuff done as well,
Yeah, thanks, man. And that's true of basically everything here. Everything has an inside. Everything has a basement. Everything has a reason for being. There's undersides of builds, backsides of builds. There nothing. The backs of everything are done. there's no there's no back of the base left wide open that no one can see. Even we'll call it the walls of the valley, like all of the landscaping we were talking about over the last month on the spawn chunks, like that's all on the other side of the river. Like none of that is vanilla Minecraft. It's all been tweaked a little bit by me. It's not like a complete like build from nothing. It's me kind of taking the existing landscape and trying to make it look nice. But everything has been touched, so it really feels like you're kind of sunk in and immersed in the build.
For the folks who haven't been listening to the Spawn Chunks recently, remind us what version this landscape is from, like when this area was originally settled, Minecraft version-wise.
It would have been just before, was 16 the Nether update?
Yes, 1.16 was Nether update.
So this would have been just before that.
So 1.15.2 or whatever it would
yeah,
have been
whatever
at
it
the
was.
time.
Yeah. Certainly
So
long
bees
before
were the most recent feature was bees and honey.
Yeah, certainly long before the overworld update with caves and cliffs, like a long time before that. And so there's a few things that had to be removed. There was a couple of fun quirks that I decided to keep. But I think the benefit there was that I didn't end up with rivers that were like 20 blocks deep and like going down into ravines and crazy stuff like that. So the rivers were a little bit more shallow.
Blocks wide.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just realizing that my map is also not showing correctly. Let me just change this.
Yeah, I mainly point that out just to draw people's attention to the fact that, yes, all of the riverbanks with all of the extra grass and ferns and stuff like that, there are bushes there as well. There are firefly bushes. There's a bit of dry grass poking out here and there. Like, it's not just the fact that all of this has been added to and changed just a little bit, and some of it is going to be bone meal spam, but a lot of it is just going to be like manually placed foliage and stuff just to create the illusion of a wild hillside out there.
Yeah, the trick that I tend to use is to manually place grass and ferns, kind of like Cubert, just like every block, just get something on it, and then you run through and you hit everything with bone meal, and because everything is 2 blocks tall, it really hides the edge of the dirt block, like the grass block in Minecraft. And then something I discovered much later than I should have is that really you want some dirt. Like if you cover everything in grass, it looks really weirdly unnatural. So I've been using coarse dirt to like make very specific intentional, like this is a section of the cliff that's just dirt and no grass can grow on it. And there's no grass tops either to the side of the block. And it makes a big difference.
Definitely. So where do we want to start with all of the houses in the farmland around?
Well, the easiest thing to do, and I think the best place to show off at first would be getting up to the potato farm, which is the one on the right here, because this is where it all started. This was the first build that I made. The Joel Duggan VOD's YouTube channel, this is the first VOD that you go and watch, is this potato farm on the right. And it started off a lot larger because I hadn't yet really decided how I was going to do for scale, and I ended up returning to this just this year and cutting about half of it off and making it feel like it fit with all the other builds around it. And this ended up being the staging area for most of Westhill until I started building the keep, because in the basement of the barn is where I was able to do like a lot of storage and stuff like that.
Just to explain to folks who might have seen some of these crops and gone, is this modded? Nope, these are just retextured vanilla crops. Like everything on the Citadel is vanilla with a little bit of texture pack and occasional, like the data packs help you with stuff like furniture, right? With like tables and chairs.
Yeah, the data packs are mostly vanilla tweaks and a lot of them are more recipe related. The visual data packs are things like the tables and chairs data pack. That comes with its own resource pack, and armor stand stuff would be the other data pack that has visual impact on the world. Those are really the only two that I can think of off the top of my head that would be worth mentioning. And then the textures, for me, the custom textures, I've got custom potato, beetroot, which are the two major crops in this farm that you're seeing, and then a custom wheat texture as well, which of course you can see everywhere across the road. And I don't know, carrots are natural. I haven't really messed with much more than that. If you see any hay bales, they also match the wheat texture, so they're more of a beige, kind of like a light golden color than the more yellow that you get with vanilla Minecraft.
I'm occasionally pausing to turn cinematic camera on and do like a little panorama kind of look around some of this, and it really occurs to me that if you took a 360-degree screenshot here, you could make a really cool custom menu panorama for the Minecraft login screen.
Yeah,
there's a lot of this that looks very complete like that, and would be a really, really fun thing to do.
That would be a cool thing to do. Yeah,
the experience. Yeah,
be a fun thing to add to like my starting soon screen on Twitch or something. I want to do like some B-roll. You and I were talking in the render distance, I think, recently about flashback. It's a very similar mod to replay mod, and I want to like just record going down the main road and just kind of like having stuff pass by and whatnot. But we'll show off the inside here just so you can kind of get an idea. Hopefully everything is going to be displayed properly for you. You should see tables and chairs in front of you, and a table.
All the furniture looks great.
Yeah. And it's such a neat data pack. It's recently been redone by Mr. 7. And what's cool about these is if I just switch over into survival, you can move them. And so it's just a matter of shift and regular left click will move them, and then you can also just spin them with the right click.
Nice. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, and you can sit on if you end up sitting on it by accident, there's a hidden pig in a saddle that you can't see, and so that's how they make you sit in the chair. I've never really bothered with that kind of stuff because I don't RP at that level, but I just find that Minecraft needed tables and chairs. Like it needed some sort of thing that wasn't a stair block and a slab. I still use slabs sometimes for like footstools, but this I felt just really was worth the data pack, and especially because Axel, the original author, was very keen on keeping the vanilla textures. So this is just plank textures. Like they're made out of either stripped wood or plank texture. They're just a different model, and it really, really makes things work well together. And when you place two tables together, they automatically just separate the legs and put them on the four corners. It's very, very simple.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. And this is so clearly just a spruce plank block with a section of it cut out, and it makes perfect sense as a table model. It's just one of those little concessions, I think, also to the scale that you're building at, because so many of these houses don't have like, a enormous cartoonish kind of scale. You're working at player scale the entire time, and so you need player scale furniture. And when your stairs look the same as your seats, it kind of breaks the immersion a little bit, especially when immersion is so important to this area.
Yeah. Ulankel is asking about dirt slabs, and you're right. That's something that I should mention. That's actually a data pack. It's not that difficult to do. The dirt slabs outside are petrified oak slabs, which are part of vanilla Minecraft, but they're not in survival. They're only in creative. And so the data pack gives you a recipe to make petrified oak slabs. I use 3 dirt, and you get petrified oak slabs, but then I just retexture the petrified oak slab to be coarse dirt texture, and so you end up with coarse dirt slabs, which is great for paths.
Yeah, I am curious if at some point they are going to add a way of giving you more control over things like dirt and sand and the things that feel like they should be granular, so that you can do more stuff with those. But for now we just have snow layers and one slab that's unused by the game's vanilla state, so that you can mess around with that if you want to.
Yeah, I would really like there to be more like that. Sand especially would be really cool to be able to do in layers like we can with snow. Well, I guess before we get too far along, we can pop over to the wheat farm. I've got a bed with me, so I'll sleep if it gets too dark.
Sure. I'm in creative mode anyway, so mobs aren't going to bother me.
Yeah,
of
right.
Course, you probably don't want them wandering around so much.
Yeah, it was more about just the lighting.
And if the wandering trader shows up, keep him away from the crops, because otherwise they'll all get trampled.
He won't, because he doesn't.
Of course.
We have turned him on. There was too many murders. It felt bad.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I did notice a wandering trader head over in front of Alistair's house, and that sets a precedent, I think, for how they're handled on the server in general.
Yep. That and how Alistair treats villagers, we won't talk about. this is, I think, the second build that I did in the area, and it was a really good exercise in doing something different. I had done a water wheel before outside of Dartmouth Meadows, but this was something a bit more complicated. There was more, I think barrels in the game were a thing that they weren't before, so it was really fun to kind of get that going.
Pretty fun to get a view of this briefly while the sun sets and like notice the little points of light, all of the lanterns and stuff you've got guiding people up to the town.
Yeah,
I imagine there's a couple of spots where you'll see firefly bushes along the river as well. But
yes, yeah. There'll be a point out here where I'll let it go to nighttime and we can like take a look at that kind of stuff as well too. And I mean, I don't know, we don't have to go inside of every single build, but in particular I like this one because there's I actually kind of thought about what it would be, you know, if the water wheel was turning gears and grinding wheat, and like what would the basement sort of look like. So there's a lot of detail down below. There's also a door on the ground level. We can go in and take a closer look. But then everything up here is just the kind of stuff I like to do inside, is just make sure that everything has a lived in feel or some sort of use, even if it's just like putting some stuff around that looks like storage or looks like, you know, somebody would have just put stuff up here and forgot about it over the years. One of the data packs we do have is the mini blocks, which is just so handy for creating detail. And I've talked about it on the show before, but putting these little mini blocks at slight angles just makes everything feel so much more lived in compared to when everything's on a straight grid.
Yeah, the flexibility of them being player heads and being sort of like armor stands where you can position them at slight angles does really help.
Yeah. And in some cases I've put them on armor stands to get more variety out of them. Like I think I've made some custom mushrooms and stuff like that before. But a lot of the times I just use them. I really find the barrel, beehive, chest, and there's one more that I find really handy too. I think it might be the loom and oh, there's one more that I'm thinking of that looks like a little, sometimes the smithing table can look really cool. It looks like a little jeweler's anvil or something like that. Like you can kind of, at that scale, it kind of has a fun vibe to it.
I'm sure we'll encounter many more of them as we explore here.
Yes, they're around for sure. And then to get down, we actually have to go across another little bridge, which is just over here. And I don't know if this was exactly inspired by a Lego build, but I've definitely, I've certainly seen and built Lego builds that have this kind of like two-tiered, like entrance on the bottom, entrance on the top sort of vibe. Oh, you can see here's some tables and chairs I forgot to replace. So
there you go.
The data pack got updated when they changed how data worked in the game. And I knew it was going to happen, folks. I forgot something. I forgot that there was tables down here, so they have not been replaced. Oh, that's funny. Somebody write that down. I'll have to come back. But these are just, you know, large barn builds. Just tried to fill them in and make them look like they had some life to them, had some purpose. This was very early on too, so they tend to be not barren, but like a very simple sort of structure.
Yeah. And you got like a thatch roof with the hay bales. I do think the hay bales work a lot better for the type of stuff you're building with them, to have them retextured that way. I think it's such a bright yellow texture in vanilla that I can't see many people wanting them for thatch roofs, but thankfully there's a few alternatives now. But I imagine some of this stuff, when you're thinking about placing it, and obviously with the wheat field being super nearby, it makes thematic sense, but some of the blocks that you might have used later probably wouldn't have been in the game at that stage.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that I want to show off is just like the level of detail and immersion. Is I wanted to make sure that even at the end of these little paths on the river, everything that you're looking at, even from this point, has been tweaked. So this is all custom landscape across the river. There's some custom reeds across. Only when it goes around the bend did I just decide, okay, that's it. You can't, you know, unless you're having elytra, which is not really the idea here, you can't really see around there. So I stopped doing the custom stuff. But this is a good example of like, sometimes you just want to do like a little custom bit, like the reeds across the way with the new bush blocks. And then the rest of the time you can get away with, like, you know, across the river around the bend, it's bone meal spam. Like it's fine. It works just fine. You're not close enough to it to really, for it to matter. But it does kind of give opportunities to have like little gates for bringing the water into the canal for the water wheel, things like that. It's just, I really love details like this. It's something that I found, and it's very time consuming, but it just, when you're done, and you realize that you can walk around here, and it really feels like you're walking around in a different video game. It's like you're walking around in the same sort of like landscape that you might get like in a Zelda game, or
Yeah.
an Elder Scrolls or something, where everything has been crafted instead of procedurally generated.
And I think having some patches of the rivers like that as well, where you've got a lot of grass and occasional ferns sort of on the hillside, but then there's one concentrated patch that favors a different type of plant. That feels very much like the way plants grow in real life, where they will sort of grow in little
Yeah.
clusters of their own because a plant has just dropped a ton of seeds around itself, and those have grown the following year, and they sort of spread outwards from like an epicenter. And it makes a lot more sense to like decorate stuff that way, where you'd imagine you want to have like little bits and pieces of something everywhere, but then everything looks kind of homogenous, and that feels more video gamey. So I think it's neat that there's like little focused areas of detail that can account for everything else around them.
That definitely comes from the hiking that I do, right? Like you start to notice
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. I didn't really take a lot of reference photos, but like when you hike enough, you just kind of realize that's kind of how things work, right?
Yeah.
We can pop up this way and take a look at the two farms I think I'm the most proud of are the bee farm and the abandoned farm, and they're kind of on this side road back here. Actually, I quite like the little duck pond too.
Yeah. You got the, the sort of duck enclosure up here for them, and little ramp down into the water and stuff. It's cute.
Yeah, it's really fun to build, and stuff like that doesn't take too long. It's something that's really nice about building something this large in terms of the area. When you do something that's just like 10 or 12 blocks wide, you think like, oh, this is going to be a breeze. Like it's just, it's such a small project.
I'm noticing all the little details too, like the leaf litter on occasional corners of the blocks here. Like it's really subtle. There's just occasional ones and twos of them, and the wildflowers off to one side here as well. Like I think those have been a really neat addition to areas like this, where you feel like a dandelion in its sort of old school Minecraft style is really going to stick out compared to how low lying all of the stuff like wildflowers and leaf litter and maybe even pink petals are.
Yeah, I've used pink petals in a similar fashion in other places. And I also feel like Moss Carpet does a good job too of just like, it kind of steers the player. Like you kind of want to use the path. Like I don't want to run across this way. I just naturally feel like I should just stay on the brown part, just because it's just enough to kind of make you feel like, that's not going to be comfortable to walk across as a human,
Yeah, I feel like if you wanted to deter me from running across an area, you just need to put like a bunch of slabs at different heights, and so it feels like you're kind of driving over cobblestones when you're going across them, and that's enough to make me want to stick to a path. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is the bee farm. There's lots of different flowers and areas. Tried to mix things up. There's a little bit of coral hidden in some places, depending on whether or not it worked color-wise. Also, the new cactus flowers work really well mixed in with the pink petals and stuff like that. And what I like so much about this build is that it's almost always in motion. There's usually bees flying around at some point, and there's at least 6, if not more, flying around at any given any given time. And so it's fun to be here. It feels a lot more active than the other places.
For sure. Were you tempted to make this functional at any point? Did you ever think about like putting a pressure plate on top of one of the bee nests and having a dispenser underneath with some shears and just grabbing some honeycomb by jumping on it?
No, I've never thought about that, but that's a good way to do it. There's a couple of beehives behind the potato farm that I use manually. I remove the scaffolding underneath them, and I put a campfire there, and I just shear them myself whenever I need a little bit of extra honeycomb. But no, this was all aesthetic. Like there's hardly anything in Westhill that's actually functional. Everything is just meant to look at. Every now and again, as I was like working on things, I would like harvest some of the wheat from the wheat farm to like make hay bales that I might need, and it would grow back eventually because, of course, I've always been loading the area. But everything here is just visual.
Sorry, I got flown at by a bee and had to step aside.
Just dodge and weave, dodge and weave.
There's workers here, and I don't want to get in the way, But yeah, no, I think that's really interesting because you said that the sci-fi area that you're working on next, as far as big projects go, is going to be a place that has a bit more productive farms that are hidden by the aesthetics of them, right? So it's interesting to move from an area where you focused solely on the aesthetics to moving on to an area that's like a hybrid of the functional stuff that we love from Minecraft, but then also the aesthetic stuff to conceal it a bit more effectively.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's going to be fun to get into some technical stuff too, because it's part of Minecraft I really like. And a lot of the other things I've done on the server have been server-related farms. That's kind of been what I've done. And so it's going to be nice to return to doing technical stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there anything we want to see inside?
Inside, yeah. We've got, feel free to pop inside. There's a bunch of different decor, and there's always an upstairs in a finished build like this. There's always like stuff in the kitchen. Here's a good example of me using mini blocks on an armor stand to get a couple different scales, just to kind of make things work.
Fun that you've got the honeycomb in here as well, but not like an excess of it either. It's not like the entire interior has to be like over themed with all of the bee products and stuff. It feels very very minimalist and very sort of real life almost.
Yeah, same thing with upstairs, you know, yellow bed, honeycomb in a frame on the wall, like just kind of like little
orange candles.
Little subtle hints that kind of make things work. And one of the best things that ever happened to this town was the changing in light levels, because it really felt like I could make it look more dim, more like a medieval town, but then not at all dangerous around every single curve, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because even here, like, I'll use Mini HUD on my stream. There's most of the paths are lit. Like, there's only like the back corners of lots that are, you know, that are really, really dark, and maybe like the middle of the bees' nests over here. Yeah, like there's this is a 0 that I'm standing on, but everything else up here is like a 1. So it's really easy to have it be mostly lit and feel pretty safe, and it reduces the amount of stuff we run into greatly.
Yeah, I can imagine a creeper in the center of some of the detailed plots of this would be kind of devastating, so I can see why.
Oh, look, yeah. Yeah, I've definitely had that happen once or twice, and I would like to avoid it in future. Especially when you've been working on it this long, because then you're like, God, now I got to go look for screenshots, because I don't remember what that looked like. You know, like, it's been 4 years since I've built that wall or that path. Like, how was that textured? That kind of stuff is wild. The other farm that I like along here is the abandoned farm, and this was something that was made possible when they added pale oak wood and all the related stuff. So this is like an empty, rundown building. There's holes in the roof. There's moss coming through. It's really fun with shaders, because when you go inside, the sunbeams come through the giant holes in the roof, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, right now you're even getting them through the windows here and there. But yeah, I like the fact that you've been able to show that the place is sort of run down and things are growing wild, and there's maybe even like a little bit of damp and mold and stuff with the pale moss carpets, and the fact that you've got pale oak as timber. And I always thought that the pale oak doors and trapdoors had a very sort of modern farmhouse aesthetic, but of course that derives itself from more older sort of farmhouse designs than just everything being painted white, because it's a sort of functional color. So like having a couple of hints at that doesn't deviate much from the block palette you've got here. But then of course a giant hole in the roof is a sign that this place is long abandoned.
Yeah, and you'll see the waterfall out there too behind you on the cliff.
Yes, the famous, or perhaps infamous
waterfall. Yeah, this took a long time to fix and get right, but it was it's nice to have it done. Like, it really kind of adds to, I think, the backdrop.
The joys of working with Minecraft water physics and trying to make them at least a little bit aesthetic. Like, do what I want, go where I want you to, and it's
totally
it's a headache sometimes, but definitely worth it when you get results like this.
Thanks. So I've got some broken down foundations, some pieces of material just lying around, and then of course the big barn here has got more of the same sort of stuff with holes in the roof, stuff growing inside. And something I tried to do, even without shaders, was where there is a hole in the roof, I tried to use lighter blocks on the ground, so that even if it's a server mate walking around without shaders on, it's still going to look like there's light coming through from above.
Yeah, you still got like rooted dirt down here, which could very easily be like, thinking about the pixelated shadows that they're adding with vibrant visuals. There are just like highlights in the rooted dirt that could be the light filtering down through some of these leaves if you want that sort of layer of immersion to it. I think that's a neat touch for sure.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to put this together, because I'd never done anything like this. I've never done anything that was this run down, so it was really fun. And I did the same thing with the farm. I thought, you know what if this was a wheat farm like I had built earlier that we saw along the main road, but it has been unattended for years. And so I get to combine like the dead bush, the wheat texture, the new bush block in places. I threw in some carrots here and there just for some color and some different stuff. And so it was fun to kind of make this look like an overgrown area. And still looks like a farm. Like if I get up here for my stream, like you can sort of see how it still looks like it has the farm structure. So
yeah, I think it's neat that you've established what a farm looks like. I mean, if you're entering from the intended direction, from the direction we came in, you walk through all of the other farms that are structured and orderly and have a very specific like topography to them, and then you get to this one later and you realize, oh, this used to be a farm, because you've already been shown what a farm looks like
yeah,
with the approach that you've taken to building them. And so it's a lot easier for you to understand that this is an abandoned one once you've seen evidence of the ones that have, been maintained for however long.
yeah, it's been fun to work in these kind of details and kind of make the world feel very consistent, I guess is the best thing to say. And as someone that likes bridges, you can also get a good look at the bridge that goes west. Before we're on it, you can actually take a look and see like the structure of that leading up to the west gate.
Seeing a good portion of Westhill now, even if it
Yes.
was less visible to me in the fog in the distance. Now
Yeah.
we're approaching the city walls. We see a lot better the amount of stuff that is behind those walls.
So I guess the penultimate approach to Westhill would be to go back to the main road and take the paved road back up. We can always circle back and look at the flower farms or deviate off the road in any place you see fit. Don't let me guide if there's something that you're just like, ooh, I want to go this way. Just let's go that way.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, you know the layout of this better than I do.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious what strikes you as something that's
Yeah.
worth drawing attention to.
So
I've also seen a few people in the chat saying like, have I missed the town tour? Are we talking about the stuff on the outside? No, we are approaching the town.
We're approaching the
haven't
town.
got to the
We haven't got to the town yet. Yeah, it's probably going to be a longer tour because of the amount of detail leading up to it. This was not always the plan. I ended up deciding that after I had built a good chunk of the town, it felt very odd to walk through this long empty space to get to the town. So I decided over the years, after the town was pretty much finished, to spend a lot of time on the outside of the town, which I think helps. I think it helps the immersion of it. It helps it feel like it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Right, let's continue up the road.
Yeah, so the main stone road will lead directly to the Westhill front gate, and then anything that's off in the sides is going to be like a dirt path, or it's going to be like a little stone cobble path to a house or whatever. There's also some paths that we talked about recently on the spawn chunks. Like you'll see little dirt paths like cutting across, connecting two little spots.
Yes.
Little footpaths.
And as somebody who lives in not like a super rural place in the UK, but at least a place where there are like, grass verges and pedestrian like pathways and stuff, you can tell when people take shortcuts. There are always like,
Yes.
Some of them have even been paved after they might have been used over and over again, but there are almost always like little dirt areas where people's shoes have worn down the grass in some spots because they walk there so frequently. And so that feels like a very real touch to me. I'm definitely drawn to the house with the mangrove roof. I'm pretty sure this is an inn.
Yes, right? This is the Westhill River Inn, I think. Is that what I called it? The sign should be on the outside there.
Yes, it certainly is. And yeah, I can't help but be drawn to it because of how bright the roof is.
Yes.
And how like thematically appropriate all of the roses are with the red color and everything. Like it feels like a very welcoming build.
Thanks, man. Yeah, this was one of the things that, of course, wasn't possible until they came out with mangrove. And yeah. I very much have felt the burnout on brown and gray throughout the years. And so it was fun to like, I know I'm going to make a roof a nice bright color. It didn't really fit in the town. So I thought, well, you know what? Maybe we'll do something outside the town. And I needed something for this space, so it worked out very well. You'll also notice that the beehives for decoration have been commandeered. That's because there's a bee farm next door. The little mud roof house to the north has a beehive in it, and the bee's radius has just expanded, and he can fit through the windows. So he flies in and uses like the check-in desk and some of the cupboards in the kitchen as bees nests. So it's a little bit funny to have like the dripping honey noise in the inn. It's very funny.
I like the fact that you've got, again, attention to detail. There's a guest book,
yes.
little register on the front desk, and upstairs, I was just taking a look. You've managed to cram so much detail into a couple of basically like there's a 3x2 room here, or
Yeah.
more or less a 3x3, but you've got trapdoors here as dividing walls, so you can't really do a whole lot with the space there because it's occupied by a trapdoor already. But the amount that you've managed to at least make these feel like rooms that a traveler could stay in is great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's tricky, and I do really enjoy. I end up overusing them, I think, but like the spruce trapdoor as a wall, it does really
Hmm.
give you that extra space because like here I can put it on the outside, and
Yeah.
that means that you've got a full use of the block inside, depending on where you put the one in the hallway. So depending on where you want to sacrifice the block space, if it's out here, then it's not a big deal. It gives you that room inside to put down the bed or put down the table or whatever it is that you need.
Much as I have talked about them being the new vertical slabs, I honestly don't see people doing the same thing with shelves just because of the functionality of shelves being so
Yeah.
different. Like it's too easy to like accidentally right click on a shelf as you're traveling around. Like you right click on a trapdoor, it just flips down, you can flip it back. But
Yeah.
if you right click on a shelf, you end up putting on the shelf whatever's in your hand at the time.
Yeah. There's a nice little garden out back too with a view of the river, which is a fun little part of the build.
And some more custom armor stand work with like both bread in the window there and also like the axe in the micro block tree stump. I guess this is armor stand with a regular block in the head slot, right?
Yeah, that's what that is. There's a variation. Also, it looks like I forgot another tables and chairs. Jeez.
Ah, right, that makes
Yeah,
sense. I was
yeah.
wondering why
Sorry.
this was Zed fighting.
No, that should have been a table and chair like you saw inside. So I knew there would be something that I would forget. There's always something on the list, but yeah, this was the first time I started messing around with like coral in the gardens. And one of the
Yeah.
nice things about the core stirred slab, of course, is that you can waterlog it, and so
Sure, yeah.
you can waterlog it and then put stuff on top of it, which is really nice. And so it allows the coral to stay colorful, and it actually really works well as a flower plant, which is great.
Hmm. And I think having done a bit of gardening in real life now, it makes a lot of sense to have the flower beds and stuff look more earthy than grassy because the grass is going to like choke out some flowers. And I think it makes a lot of sense to
Mm.
delineate where the growing beds and stuff are by having some dirt texture in there as well. So I think it really works that you can hide the waterlogged slab that way. Elsewhere, I think you've used like waterlogged mangrove roots and stuff as a couple of
Yes.
spots for coral to grow. So
Yeah.
there's like a lot of little subtle things you can do to make sure that plants like that can survive, and you can use coral as like a plant life.
Yeah. I'm just gonna pop inside and sleep quickly so we can continue on.
Good plan. Good plan. We can use the beds as we find them.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that I really liked about. As I've been building this, of course, the whole thing has always been built in survival, and in doing that over the years, because I've finished the interior of everything. Like whenever I need a bed, I just need to walk into the nearest building, and there's usually one. We can
I'm
actually
once again admiring the view from here and recognizing how much of it has been bone
Hmm.
mealed, hand shaped. I think that's the graveyard over there on the other side of the river.
Yes.
And yeah, there's just like little subtle touches of that everywhere that does make this feel like a very curated landscape.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been fun to add the detail. The test of the marsh that I did is over there. That drains into the river underneath that stone bridge, and the it's a fun area to look at because it was kind of like a proof of concept for something like 4 times as large, which is in front of the
Yeah.
main wall in Westhill. But we can loop around this way too. I try to also like have things that make sense, like river access behind the inn and just stuff like
Yeah.
that is a lot of fun. We'll just loop around to the front here.
Mhm.
And actually, speaking of the marsh, be probably a good time to check that out too.
Yes. Right out here in the front of the wall.
Yeah, so I was trying to figure out what to do with this space, and it took a really long time to sort it out. But this is all custom marsh. It's a lot of waterlogged mangrove roots, a lot of mud, muddy mangrove roots, and then waterlogged bushes, and then a lot of seagrass and bone meal and various things. And it does a couple of things. It fills the space, but it also, I was not tempted to put like big buildings here because I felt like it would kind of counteract the wall. Like enemies would have a roof to jump up on top of and like shoot at the wall.
Yeah, I think it's a really neat use of the space and something that a lot of builders wouldn't necessarily think to put in their world. Like, I think a lot of the time when people are thinking about making things look pretty, they don't always think about making things look muddy. But then marshes like this feel natural. I really appreciate the river transitions as well. Like we've talked about it on the show plenty of times, but I would really love if Minecraft had more overworld like surface approaches to changes in the elevation of water and like the vertical stuff that's going on here with like there being what is essentially an aquifer of sorts, but like having a water level at a certain height with the marsh and then that kind of dropping off into the river. The same thing you've done over there behind the inn. I think it looks really realistic to have these little rivulets of water running down into a larger river, and I think it makes a lot of sense for stuff like that to be part of a world as fully realized as this.
Thanks, man. This waterfall going into the Spruce River on the side here is probably one of my favorite bits of landscaping that I've done. I've seen stuff like this. There's a hike near me called Taylor Head, and it's a bunch of bedrock, like not the tectonic plates, but like the real big pieces of bedrock right on the ocean. And so there's nowheres for water to go. So all along the shore as you're hiking, there's just water sheeting over the rocks from underneath trees and stuff down into the ground. And so it's really, really cool to see that kind of stuff, and then try to reimagine it in Minecraft. And unfortunately, it's hard to get Minecraft water to flow over rocks in a way that looks thin, because of course the block of water is always a full block tall or almost a full block tall. And so I had to kind of like carve little bits into it to make it look realistic. But really something that helped a lot with this was when Deep Slate came into the play, because then it allowed it to look even more wet, which I think works well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got the shiny rock kind of element of Deep Slate, but you've also got like mud blocks in there as well. So some of that has had to come along a little bit later. And yeah, just like the little subtle touches, like the ferns hanging out here and there, the vines, some of those blocks, again, like so many little details that must have taken a really long time to execute on, just not just because of them being from different versions, but also the level of detail that you've applied to some of this and individual blocks that you've had to bring around in survival, like little pieces of foliage like that would have taken a while both to collect and to distribute in a way that looked satisfactory to you.
Oh man, like I feel it every time I do landscaping. Like my inventory is just jammed. It's always full. There's always something I need to pick up and something I need to put down in order to make room. And I have to kind of do it in phases. It's like very similar to art, and like when you're sketching and then you switch to ink and then you switch to color. Like your mind shift is prevalent in that kind of situation. And for this, it's like you almost want to have an inventory for laying out things roughly, and then you want to ditch that and then grab the inventory for laying on your first level of texture. And then when you get into the finer details, like the plants and the bushes and the flowers and stuff, you need like a separate inventory for that.
Yeah.
Because if you try to do it all at once, you're just jammed. Like you just can't do it. So what do you think? Time to get into the main gate?
I think we're ready to go to town. Yeah, let's do it.
So this was inspired by a piece of art that I found online and has actually been turned into a Lego build.
Yes.
Follower of my channel, and I think also follower of the Spawn Chunks, Grandpa Crafter sent me in a Lego my own creation set with instructions and all the pieces, and I built it live on stream, and you can find it at Joel Duggan VODs on YouTube as well. And it is a pretty accurate reconstruction of it goes from the tower on the left, and then completely finishes the building on the right, and then the archway in between, and that stops kind of like where the building, that kind of form, stops. But it's such a cool thing to see something realized in Minecraft. It's actually on the floor on my studio right now, over by the wall.
And once again, this will have a little interior as well. We're not going to go around the interiors of each of the houses in town, but again, I just want to take an occasional sample of, like, there's a couple of beds up here and a desk and some bookshelves, candles and so forth. And would this be like, do you imagine this being like watchmen who are like guarding the town gate? Or is this more of like just a home somebody's been able to build outside of the walls?
No, this was me thinking about like people watching the gate sleeping and having like a table down here to like, sit at and wait for somebody to come in or whatever. The idea was to kind of have some sort of like guards quarters or something like that.
Sure.
This was probably one of the first things that I built in the town. It started, and then the wall started from there. And so sometimes the function of these things got kind of revamped as I went on, but that actually stayed pretty similar to what I wanted to have done. So this is all interconnected. So there's lots of different roads that go different places. The basic idea is I started in the east, and that was where a Minecraft village used to be. And that is like the Eastern Market. There's like a church, there's a blacksmith, there's a bakery, there's an inn, all that kind of stuff. Up here at the front, at the north, near the front gate, is the barracks. And so this is meant to be more like soldiers' quarters, lots of access to the wall. There's access to the river as well. And then on the west, there is like a space to go in and check in. There's a place to tie your horses. And then there's the keep, which we can't actually see right now. And then beyond that is a much richer area where there's like fancier houses, fancier shops, larger houses, mansions, that kind of thing. Or not mansions, I'm not sure what to call it, but they're just really large kind of manors and stuff over on that side. So we'll probably start on the east and work our way back, but we can obviously take a spin down the barracks first if we want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. And once again, drawing people's attention to how much of this has been done with like armor stands, but also hanging signs and like a combination of text and item icons being used around here. Like that's something that you've talked about being the thing relatively recently, where you can do a bit more sign formatting, and hanging signs obviously got added in a more recent version. They've only been there since 1.20. So
yeah,
once that happened, you're probably going around here and adding hanging signs to the builds that still needed some sort of signage.
there's just something more Minecraft feeling about a sign with a book on it, as opposed to a sign that says like register here or welcome or something like that in text. There's just something a little bit more cartoony about that. There's a lot of symbolism. So you'll notice it when we go to the west. There's a bunch of shops that have like different things like that on their signs. And I absolutely went around and I think it might have been to a point where like I knew the signs were coming. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait until they arrive, and then I'll be able to go around and add those details. So we've got like a mess hall on the right, and that's got, you know, tables and chairs, and it's very simple because it's like it's not meant to be fancy. They're just meant to be for soldiers. And then upstairs is like an infirmary with a bunch of beds and stuff like that. And then each one of these individual buildings on the right is just, it's a very simple like 3x5. They all look the same. So you've seen one, you've seen them all. Sometimes with
Spartan kind of like living quarters, salt of the earth kind of soldiers, here, that kind of thing.
And that just kind of weaves around the corner. But then there is wall access here and then in the tower, depending on which way you want to go up. And that will.
So even if these gates were closed, like the soldiers would still be able to get up on the walls and guard stuff, and that probably means that like anybody invading the town doesn't end up being able to catch them unawares from behind, because they've got the big old gates here and their own sort of enclosed section of the city.
Yeah, and you can almost walk the entire thing. There's a couple of spots where you can't. I think this is one where you have to go down around the gate, but from the other side of the gate you can walk the full wall, and then here you can walk all the way around to the east gate, which is actually probably a good thing to do. We'll just kind of pop around here. And since it's going to be east, I'm going to sleep because it's really pretty with the sun coming up.
Folks in the chat, welcome in if you're just joining us. We're taking a tour of Joel's Westhill project here on the Citadel server. This is a 4-year medieval town project that Joel has been working on and commenting on for the last little while on the Spawn Chunks podcast. So if you haven't listened in to any of these and you're seeing this for the first time, welcome. You've missed about an hour or so of the tour so far, but that's been mainly concerned with the farms around the outside of these occasional buildings here and there. And we got a little peek at the central spawn area on the server, whereas this is a fantasy build area that we've warped out to, and Joel has been working fastidiously for the last half decade almost.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm just realizing I got to double check an audio thing. I want to make sure that the Discord audio. Okay, good. I was concerned for a second that I had forgot to put the Discord audio in the VOD. So that live for everybody, but then wouldn't be in the recording. And I just had this moment of panic. I was like, no, I should double check that. I'm actually struggling to remember how we get I think we have to go up and across and then down the other side in order to continue on. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. So some decent views from up here as well. And I tried to have some function to the top of the towers. So like there's always like a little thing to stand up on so that you're not looking at this meter tall or meter and a half tall thing that you can't see over as a player. So I always thought it was
another
fun.
one of those concessions to player scale that you have to make sometimes, where there are windows that you can't see out of from inside of a build, and most of the time they're just there to provide a bit of light, but it always feels like a strange thing that you can't see out of some of them.
Yep. And case in point, this is a dead end. We have to go back.
Right.
Or we just jump down.
Yeah, no, this is the section where you've got a sort of exterior gate to some of the city walls, and it's neat that, like you said, there's so many different pathways around this and so many different ways that you can traverse the town.
Yeah, it's fun when I want to go back and forth, or if like I'm going back from east to west, I can actually just like take a different route sometimes. I'm just like, you know what, we're just gonna go this way, and I'll walk across the different areas. Would definitely have to go this way. We'll go across the bridge. It's probably more of a fun way to look at things. And so the main road was just a bunch of houses. I tried to have little things like river access. So the Westhill River is the one on the east of the valley, and we saw that way back behind the wheat farm, but it winds all the way down through here and then actually goes through the middle of Westhill. So there's a bridge to the east, and then all along here we've got a bunch of different things that just make it feel alive. There's some cranes pulling things up from what would be like maybe places where boats had dropped things off, but you could actually boat through the entire thing. You can go through the entire map of Westhill in a boat, which is fun.
That's a whole separate tour that you can give people.
Yeah,
it's the
totally.
the Westhill boating tour.
Yeah. So a lot of these are just like little houses that just have the same sort of like tables and chairs and a bed and a kitchen. There's not a lot of detail in these because these were very, very early on. But I did have a lot of fun when they started adding things like chains and different things later on to help with the outside details. And then one of the other major builds that I did very, very early on was this bridge. And it's just meant to be very, very simple, very functional. But it does kind of serve as like a key point to get across from one side of the town to the other, because outside of a very small footbridge over the towers to the south there, this is the only place that like a cart could probably go through, right?
Yeah. I'm trying not to step on too many of the pressure plates in case they flip down trapdoors and like little things like that.
Yeah.
Just be like leaving it untidy as I travel through here.
And I did have, there's always access. Like there's always like a ladder to get up to the top of the tower, that kind of stuff. So it was fun to like make sure that these things were functional, you know, like to make sure that they felt like they were actually serving a purpose and not just a build to just sit there and look nice, right?
Here's another example of what you were saying with like having a slab so that you can stand up and look through the points where you've used a couple of stairs as like an arrow hole to, or like at least a viewing platform for people to see different corners of the town.
Yeah. So here's another example of some of the armor stand and the hanging signs for the apothecary. So all the little shops around here have got a theme, and they're usually decorated inside as such. So this one will have like a brewing stand and some different weird looking plants, and it feels very kind of like potion brewy, you know, witches kind of brewing stand vibes to it, and try to make it also have that vibe from the outside where it's got a lot of pink and purple and stuff going on. And something I like about my beetroots is that you can kind of use them as like other things. They kind of work in context as like herbs or some other strange root. When you have them all together, it looks like crops, but when you have one at a time, it kind of looks different.
Yeah, for sure. I love the fact that the little hash symbols and X's and stuff on here can pass as potion particles as well. Like they look similar enough that it really works around the sign, and it has that very kind of old school pixel art RPG feel when you've got items on signs like this as the shop signage. Here's one that probably took place before hanging signs were introduced, or may have just been like a spacing thing of like wanting to have it all on a block, but the item frames still work.
Yeah, and this is the carpentry shop. So this is there's a bunch of logs being sent up a crane, and so inside we've got this crane out the back that's hauling things up from below, and then we've got like a table saw and stuff inside. There's also a water wheel right off to the right here, and so the idea was that the water wheel is what would turn the crank that would actually power the saw, and so inside you've got the saw. And then in the basement, there's the gears that actually connect to the saw. So if you go down here, there is the gears that are connected to the water wheel outside. And just
Mm-hmm.
details like this I just find so much fun, even though I know they don't work, that you can't make them rotate. I mean, if you're having some fun with Create Mod, you could probably do something like that. But this
Oh
is,
yeah, sure.
yeah, but this is just, the idea was to kind of give the impression of motion and see how it would fly. And I love adding details like that to builds. I really like, it's very easy to figure out what to build next if you're thinking about like, well, if things need to have a function, like how would this actually work? What kind of space do I need? How big is the saw going to be? Like all that kind of stuff works really, really well for keeping you building and keeping you inspired as to what to do if things have got that function to them.
Mm-hmm. Especially since like you've got a water wheel outside of town, so again, like there's little things that you either you build something once and then you've got like the pattern of it in your head so that you can reproduce it elsewhere if it makes sense for something like that to have it, or you know, it's introducing a pattern that players can appreciate if they're touring this area, like with the farms, where like you establish what a farm looks like, so then you can do variations on that for when people get a little further in.
Yeah, and I've done it myself where I'm just like, oh, I want this. I know I've done this before. Where have I done that? How many times have I done that? And then I'll fly around the town and be like, oh, okay, I did it there, and I used those blocks, but that's not big enough. And then I did it at this other place. And so I can kind of combine the two and come up with like a third way to do something. But it's so nice to like, rather than going to Instagram or other places for reference, YouTube, I can just reference the build. Like I can reference things that I've done and take inspiration from that, which is really fun. So a lot of these are just like your standard sort of medieval shops. Like there's a butcher shop. I really like this place on the right. There's also, yeah, this place to your right is a fun little shop. The front door is on the other side. You can come in through the back. It's fine. Here. Oop.
We're both clicking on it. We're getting overzealous with the clicking.
There we go. So this is like a spice merchant was the idea.
Oh yeah,
in here, and just like using concrete powder, and again that itch of being like, I've been building with brown and gray for ever. I would like to do something that has color, please and thank you. And so doing something like this is always really fun. And I think I used glowstone dust on the sign outside, which is fun.
Great, yeah.
Yeah, in my shader pack, it's actually glowing, I think. So it's casting some light, which is a little bit funny. But now we find ourselves basically at the East Gate. And something that you'll notice throughout Westhill is that every gate or every part of the town has got a bell tower. So the front gate had a bell tower at the very, very top. And then I've made smaller bell towers on the east, the west, and south as well. And so it's just kind of like a thing that I thought would be fun to put together as a theme. And then all of these builds, of course, you can access the wall. We can walk up on the wall this way and get a look. Sometimes the access is outside, but then once you're up here, you can usually walk across the ramparts and take a look at you know, the southern wall, the graveyard there that you saw earlier is just across the way. That's actually my new storage area. So underneath the graveyard is a crypt, and that's where I've kept like all the bulk storage that used to be underneath the keep. That's my home base, really, is underneath there now.
Just so if you end up coming back here and you got to tweak a couple of things, then all of the materials that you'll need will be down there just in case.
Yeah. And at sunset, Westhill looks pretty cool. So when you look west across the entire town, you can see the silhouette of the keep in the distance, which obviously we'll get to. And then that mountain is the edge of the town to kind of give you an idea about how far that is. I'm not sure if that's rendering in for you, but there is, it's about, I want to say it's like 28 chunks or something across. Let me just quickly double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 22 chunks, I would say, is the width.
Yeah, that's probably slightly more than is rendering from me because I can't quite see the hill. But,
okay.
I'm gonna sleep for us if
sure.
that makes any sense.
I'll get out here and
I also noticed a hovering name tag over here by the door where it just says chair interaction, which I think might be another one of the like offshoots from tables and chairs updating.
Yeah, it's one of the old tables and chairs that I probably removed or have not removed, and I'll have to come back and double check that too. Actually, this would be great.
It's just a funny caption to have for the
the
wall there.
Yeah, that's probably like an invisible pig would be my guess.
Yeah, something like that.
Because when you delete, a chair is essentially an armor stand with a model in the headspace that looks like a chair, and then there's also a hidden pig, and that's the part that you sit on. And so when you remove a chair, you have to kind of remove it like 3 times to get rid of it, or at least twice. And then trapdoors, it's the same thing. There's like it's a trapdoor with a table model on one of its flips. Like every time you flip a trapdoor, it changes some sort of data value, and so you can assign a different model to it. They since changed that, but it's pretty cool. This is actually a trapdoor. This is not an error. That's actually just meant to be like stuff sitting up here at the top of the wall. But the nice part about this part of the wall, which I find is really fun, is that it circles around the church. So this is one of my favorite builds, and we've got the stone church, and then the courtyard of the church is all around the back, and everything down here is decorated. There's like a little graveyard. There's little stone access here. There's the vicar's cottage over on the right, and so you can walk around all behind the church and get the details of it. It's just, I remember walking around churches like this in small towns growing up as a kid when we'd go on vacation to visit relatives, and it was always just like eerily quiet, but also very pretty, because they would always be manicured lawns and stuff like that, just well maintained grounds. Sometimes there'd be like little gardens. And so I just thought that this, the church would probably not waste space and have like gardens for maybe feeding the poor, or honey for making mead or wine or something, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it feels very much like some of the country churches around where I grew up, because I grew up in a more rural area than I now live in, and so like there was probably a church up the road that felt like this kind of scale to me. Like, looking around, this feels very similar to that.
Nice. Yeah, it's I don't know if I did anything for reference. I'm sure I looked at some stuff. I have a Pinterest board where I've basically just I try not to take Minecraft builds. A lot of times I end up doing like little models. You'll find like people that have like miniature hobbies and things like that. So I try to take stuff like that and then translate it into Minecraft. And this is really simple. And again, benefited from the changing in light levels to keep it dim, but just using candles and some soul lanterns to light it so it's mob proof, but then have it look and feel like a standing church, from whatever medieval area we would have been emulating. It's kind of loosely medieval fantasy. I didn't have a specific period in mind. So
yeah, I think it's often a little easier if you relax the rules on yourself a little bit that way, and you're like, I'm going general medieval, like anything that inspires me, I just want to like take a leaf out of that book and pay attention to the stuff that feels like it makes sense, rather than going like, well, I need to make sure everything looks like it would have been here in the 12th century or whatever. Like, it doesn't always. It's a lot more historical research than Minecraft really needs, and you don't always have the luxury of like, well, we don't have limestone in Minecraft, so how do I substitute that? You just gotta think on your feet and find whatever speaks to you in terms of what the build does.
Yeah, and this is kind of the edge of Westhill on the southeast side. So this is kind of like where the landscaping ends, where the road kind of like disappears into the distance. The east road that I talked about there on the podcast recently, that's the east bridge there over the East River. The East River doesn't actually come in the town; it kind of like touches the back of it and goes around the back of it. But this is why I wanted to make sure that when you're on vistas like this, when you're on towers, you can look into the distance. Even that east road disappears around the corner, and it just makes the build feel really complete.
Yeah, absolutely does.
It's a pretty good vantage point of the town from up here too, actually, now that I think about it.
Yes, I was just doing a quick panorama again to once again see the full scale of it. Like, you're just about getting towers and rooftops there disappearing into the render distance for me, and yeah, this is it's all very kind of immersive and complete feeling. Did you want to head down to the sort of older part of town? This is where you said there was a Minecraft village here originally, right?
Yeah, actually, we're standing on where the Minecraft village used to be.
Oh, right. Okay,
yeah,
around here.
The village center is actually very similar to where that well is. You can probably just see it around the peak of the church, maybe, depending on where you are.
Yeah, I think we saw it briefly when we were down there in front of the main door. So let's head back down then.
Yeah, head back down. Let me know how you're doing for time too. Like, I don't want to eat up your whole afternoon if you've got stuff to do.
Oh yeah, no, I've got another hour and a half we can potentially stream together, and then cool. I'm gonna go get pizza. So
nice.
Yeah,
pizza is always a good decision. So you wanted to go check out Old Town. So let's before we leave this area, I do really like this blacksmith. This was one of my earlier builds when I was trying to add like extra details, and this is where there are some things with these armor stands and mini blocks that I really like, and that's having like it looks like a control for the billows for adding air to the fire. And I have to give a shout out to Fwip, because using shroom lights and then having the stone stairs kind of like put back to back to make what looks like a little trough for what you could use for like molten metal
channel kind of thing, yeah.
I saw that in one of his builds. I'm just kind of like, I'm stealing that, 100% stealing that. But these kind of things are just really fun to have out and adding detail and feel to the area. One of the things I don't have is villagers. Like I don't have NPCs walking around, because I do find the honking kind of annoying. It would just bring zombies into the town, and just so there's no NPCs, and also there's no livestock in here either, because I just find it hard to keep them where I want to keep them without having to do a Minecraft fence, like a Minecraft fence and gate. So if you want to have like a stone wall, well, if you're going to decorate it in the way that I want, any cow can just walk right over the wall. So they're not going to stay very...
Which doesn't happen in real life.
No.
You don't often get cows leaping over the sort of dry stone walls around their fields.
Yeah. So the inn here is also fully fleshed out inside, but again, it's nothing crazy. It's just, it probably looks like a pub, just a Smiling Goat Inn. Just a lot of cups on tables and chairs and things like that.
I think the sign out there as well is another great example of using like very minimal text on the sign, and you've got like the name of it, but then you've also got like a couple of little characters here that's like a couple of drops of liquid spilling from the goat horn as it's being raised to like cheers somebody or whatever. Like this, again, that's the stuff that like in terms of attention to detail really stands out about all of this for me.
Oh, thanks very much, man. Yeah, those are old tricks from cartoons. Like when I draw comics, like if you have like sparkles around a character's head to make them feel kind of woozy or something like that, that was always really fun to do. Here's an example of using excuse me, some of the armor stands and mini blocks to have like custom mushrooms and custom details on carts and things like that. I know it's a little outside of vanilla Minecraft in terms of using data pack and using different head blocks, but I really do like it when you can do stuff like the fish, because like it is a head from in the game. It's got a Minecraft texture on it. It's not anything too crazy, but it does really help make Minecraft feel just a little bit more modern, I find.
Yeah, if you're selling the fact that like this is, you know, a food stall or whatever, then having some food out on display that isn't just flat icons in armor you know, item frames and that kind of thing really does help a lot.
So we can scoot across here and travel across the wall and go down into Low Town, so you can get a look at that. Take a left, and then we'll go across here. So this is the archway over the river. And then through here, we can actually pass by the portcullis. And this is definitely inspired by Lego kits that I had as a kid, where you would like make the portcullis. It would have rope on it. You could actually like crank it and bring it up and then lower it. That stuff was always fun.
And you've got the retextured nether brick as well. That's why the portcullis is the black fence material.
Yep. And this will just pop us out back onto the main road. We'll go through another little inn and pub here. And this pops us out just a little bit south to where we started. So like we went east and we basically took a loop. And then this is the south gate. And you can see the bottom of the portcullis there. And
I know this hasn't ever been a point of reference for you when building this, but the connectivity of this reminds me of the environment design you see in games like Dark Souls. And it's the kind of things that people really praise about that game, is that there are so many little like shortcuts through different areas, and the connectivity of it all, and the fact that it's all one interconnected environment instead of a series of levels that like load in when you go through a certain doorway or whatever, like really helps the immersion of that game. It's one of the things people love about it. And I kind of get the same vibe from this, although obviously a lot more friendly because you're not being jumped at by zombie soldiers every so often.
Yeah.
But I really like the fact that you can guide me through a couple of what feel like, you know, back rooms and you know, tower walkways and walls, and then that sort of leads down into a pub, and then suddenly we're popping out by a gate to another area of the town. It feels like very interconnected, very lived in, and it's not like towns in real life expect you to only travel through them one way.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense for all of this to feel like a little bit labyrinthine, but in a way that means you can get to your destination by any number of routes.
Thanks. And that's something that I was passing on as advice, I think, when I was talking about this on a recent stream. And I don't know if I mentioned this on our show when we talked about Westhill on the Spawn Chunks, but like you just have to kind of start. Like if you try to plan out everything perfectly, you'll just never get there. You'll never actually place the first block. And so I find that with this, a lot of the pathing and a lot of the backwards way of getting places just kind of happened organically. Like I just kind of had it in the back of my mind. Just try to connect things in various different ways. And because I had that in the back of my head, I was able to like, oh, wait a minute. Like, what if I can walk across this drawbridge, this gate? Like, what if make sure all the towers have stairs going up and down, and make sure that the walls have different ways that you can access them. And because if you keep that in the back of your head, like you're also thinking like, ooh, I can put an alley between these houses, and where does it go? Like, does it connect to something important or does it not? And that kind of stuff I think has always been super fun to try and make sure that there's always, like you said, like 3 or 4 different ways to get from one place to another.
Yeah, for sure. So introduce us to Old Town. Tell us about this area.
So the idea was just to have something here that would be in all the movies that I've seen where there's like a medieval setting, there always seems to be some sort of settlement outside the walls of probably people that can't afford to live in there, but they want the protection of the town. So like, why would they live too far away? They're not farmers. Maybe they're merchants. Maybe they've got like little market stands and things like that. And then eventually they just kind of settle outside. It's also a bit of a river delta. So if we come over here, there's a bridge that crosses. This is the Westhill River as it continues through Westhill. It loops around this low town, which you can see clearly on the map. You can kind of see the loop. So this would be probably like a marshy area or a piece of land that probably wouldn't be otherwise used, but it's pretty well protected because it's got the river around it and then it's got the town behind it. So I just thought it would be fun to add a bunch of like simple builds, storage stuff, fishing huts, that kind of thing. And so all of them are just that kind of, they're just domiciles. Like they're just houses that have different character to them. Every once in a while there's like a storage silo or something like that, but most of it's just meant to be structures for people that wanted to live close to the town, but able to like send goods across the river with some ideas and builds and stuff like that. I really like the crane or the winch, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And again, all of this being so well connected, having like little alleyways between the houses and access to the river, and even the river's got a little bit of custom terraforming around the outside. It's not all just the sort of, oh, I popped something. Hang on, I forgot I'm in creative mode for a second. I'm so used to like clicking on stuff to kind of point it out. But yeah, no, the amount of this that's like, you know, it could be all wooden walkways and docklands and jetties and that kind of stuff. But the fact that you've decided, because this is like a lower class area, you feel like it's maybe a little bit less maintained. Nobody's coming out here with a broom and sweeping the dust and the dirt and the mud off of the boards out here. So yeah, everything just kind of makes sense to be a little bit more like scuzzy and run down.
Yeah, a lot of the times I try to think about like places where I've gone on hikes where it's been muddy, and so somebody has come along with some planks just kind of like reinforce the walkway. So it's not like it was all wood. It's more like this place is kind of falling apart. We'll put some supportive things in and we'll go from there.
And yeah, all of the market stalls, again, having these like thematically appropriate little bits of merchandise. Like there's the orange candles, the honeycomb block, the honey bottles, and then like a little bit of nether related stuff. And this feels like the netherrack and the jungle wood is like, you know, meat hanging up kind of thing. Like it's like a little bit of like a shawarma kind of vibe to it. Bread in like a little box and that kind of thing.
Thanks. Yeah, this kind of stuff is a lot of work, but I find it's worth it to just have like one area that has this level of detail, and then it kind of helps sell the stuff around it. So it helps give a reason why there's like 6 or 8 different houses all hanging out and doing different stuff. All of these have interiors. We don't need to go in and see every one of them, but one of the things I really like about Lowtown is places like this where we've got like a fishing hut where there's like barrels and kind of using blocks in interesting ways. Like maybe that's worms in that barrel, maybe this is fish or something else in that barrel. Having a big barrel full of water with some prismarine in it just kind of helps.
Yeah, yeah.
Using armor stands to hang fishing rods on the wall, and then having the river again decorated on the other side, so that's a custom landscape. It's not fancy. There's just some stuff is like a custom rock, but then other times it's just bone meal. But I find it really does give kind of like a cool vibe to this area, and really pretty screenshots around here with like the green foliage on one side and the development on the other. I find it's really, really fun.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of getting used to the minty green of the colder biomes, and like the fact that it blends a little bit from what feels like a slightly warmer environment across the river, and you've still got that kind of biome separation between the river, the taiga on one side, and this was, you said, a sunflower plains originally, a lot of it? Like
yeah,
this,
a good chunk of it is sunflower plains. I wouldn't say the taiga goes to the south and to the west, all the way around to the north, and like a big sea, like a big kind of cradle, and then to the east is more sunflower plains, and then it switches over into like one of the hills, like one of the hill biomes in the east. But yeah, mostly sunflower plains that Westhill is sitting on, including the town, like including the actual town. It's mostly sunflower plains right down to when it switches to river biomes. And in some cases I've had to widen the river because they are not the big deep rivers of caves and cliffs, so they've been deepened in some places. Some places they didn't connect at all, so I had to actually connect them and fill them in. And then other times it was just a matter of like taking the natural layout of the river but smoothing it so it didn't look kind of weird and chunky in the way that a vanilla Minecraft river does. I kind of smoothed it out to be more like pixel art from a video game, as you mentioned.
I'm going to take a quick dip under here as well, just to once again point out to folks that the river has been custom terraformed. You won't find any sand in any of these. There's a lot of dirt. There's even like, custom patches of gravel. Obviously, you've been through adding slabs and rocks down here, so it's not just all dirt. And there's seagrass, kelp that you won't find naturally occurring in rivers. That's all been added manually as well. And just like foundations of builds going down into the water where it makes sense for them to do so. Like all of that just adding to the picture here, adding to the level of detail that's present everywhere.
And I'll give you a little Easter egg. If you follow me over here and then go underwater just by the bottom of this of the keep, you'll see that there is a small grate, and that's a hint for what's inside, and one of the Easter eggs inside the basement of the keep.
Ah, right. Yeah.
So that's a teaser for when we get down there.
Yeah.
So stuff like around here is just like a functional stuff, like a boathouse and just more houses. And there's a storage thing here that's just, it's the same kind of like warehousey tips and tricks that I did before with like mini blocks. And I really like making custom crates, like things like putting a, what am I calling it? Like a sign on a stripped wood block. It kind of looks like a crate. So I do that a lot too. And then this is the south bell tower. So it's attached to the keep. The only way to access it is from inside the keep. And that's one of the 4 bell towers that's in Westhill. Cool. So now we can head up to the other side. And this was the first attempt I ever made at like a curving road that also inclines, and this was a lesson, that's for sure.
Yeah. There's some stuff that like the geometry of it makes perfect sense when you imagine it built in real life, and then you try to reproduce that in Minecraft with any kind of like regularity to the curves or like an incline that makes any sense, and then you realize, oh yeah, like the scale of this is completely wacky, and you either have to alter the scale that you're building at, or you just have to be happy with the constant trial and error of like, how do I get this proportional? Like, how do I get this to feel like it makes sense?
This is where, for me, the map mod is very, very handy because it allows me like a top-down view, so I can actually draw the S curve that I wanted in one dimension and then raise that up as I get higher and higher and higher. And then it's just a matter of dividing it. Like once you realize, okay, well, it travels like 40 to 50 blocks and it goes up by 6 or 8 blocks, you just kind of decide, all right, well, that means that each step has to be roughly 2 or 3 blocks wide, and that should give me a nice even feeling as I go up and down. A lot of it is trial and error. Like you get to the point where like it feels pretty good, but the only way to really know is just walk up and down it a bunch of times. And if you feel like it's too steep or not steep enough, then you just kind of make adjustments as you go. But the map mod really helped. However, now that there's happy ghasts in the game, people that are playing on servers that don't have mods, or if you don't have mods in your own playthrough, you could probably use the happy ghast to get up high, float around, and kind of like see what something looks like from above.
Yeah, if you can see through the ghast, you gotta like step over to the very edge of it. And
Yeah.
like takes a little bit of finessing, but yeah, there's definitely more options available than there were when you started planning this.
I'm just gonna sleep here quickly so we can get more light.
Yeah, I can see why it's been fun playing with shaders on in this area for
Yeah.
like the level of immersion that you've tried to put into the builds. It feels like Minecraft should measure up to that, and so having a bunch of like realistic shadows and light rays and stuff coming through helps the whole thing look more picturesque, but it also helps it feel like as immersive as it deserves to.
I really like the feeling of shaders in Minecraft. I find that sometimes when I get pulled into other games, the new and shiny of what pulls me into Satisfactory and No Man's Sky are how pretty the games are and how much the shaders look nice. And so adding it to Minecraft and now being able to play with shaders on stream because of like the new complementary reimagined is not so heavy and doesn't try to do so much that it just makes my computer chug. But I don't have the best frame rate, but it's still, I find that the benefit from an immersion standpoint weighs out me having like a top frame rate for streaming. So these
some folks in the chat. Sorry. Quickly, some folks in the chat were asking what all of the purple dots are on the minimap. I assume that's armor stands, and I'm trying to find a place where I can maybe remove them from the minimap just so it's a little easier to.
Yeah, I don't have any purple dots on mine.
There's entity radar, and I can probably turn that off somewhere.
Yeah, the settings are in the top left. If you go to the world map.
Yeah. I've got the display radar switched off because we don't really need to see where entities are. So yeah, on the mini map, it's a little nicer to look at it without all the kind of, you can see occasional like animals moving around in the fields and stuff like that. But it's going to make a lot more sense that way.
Could also be invisible pigs with all the tables and chairs.
Invisible pigs is another option that people mentioned.
Yeah. Sorry if I'm missing questions in chat. I'm trying to watch, but it's difficult with streaming with somebody else to also then read chat. So this is there's a stables up here for the main area, and this is like the parade square. So this is like the main area outside of the keep. So we've got a barracks across the way here that would house like soldiers or city guards or whatever, and there's like a little courtyard here for like sparring and training and whatnot, and then everything here on the right hand side, it's got like there's bows hanging on the wall, there's like a group kind of table and chair, and then there's access to the wall. So if we walk up to the top, we'll be able to see and look back out over Westhill, the valley from up here. And then this is another section of the wall that you can just walk along the whole thing, and just it connects via different towers, and so depending on where you are, you can just like walk east and west all along here.
If anyone who's gotten disoriented from how much we've been sort of turning around and going here and there and between buildings and through alleyways, hopefully this is reorienting you. Because we were out there just 40 minutes ago.
Yeah. So we can go back down and then out the front. And what do you think? Probably a good time to do the keep, or do you want to wait to the keep to do it last?
Let's do the keep now. Why not?
Sure. So this has its own little custom moat. This goes around and actually drains into the river, something that I know you'll appreciate in the western quarter, which we'll get to after the keep. But this was just something that, this was the highest point of land in the area, and I didn't really have to raise it up. I just knew that, okay, well, this is the highest point. This is probably where we would put the keep. And the nice thing about this, I'm pretty proud of this as my first real castle build. Like, I've never done anything like this before. And so all the towers have a way to go up inside of them. The wall around the keep, you can walk around it just like we can the wall around the town. There's a lot of interconnected pathways and stuff rooms are all decorated. Everything's got access. And I'd like to think that everything has a purpose. So there's the main hall and throne room is the main entrance. And I think probably like the default experience of walking into the keep for the first time. And these are things that we talked about recently on the show in the last year or so, because I didn't finish the keep until recently, because I always left it as the last on my list because the storage room is in the basement. So I didn't want to then finish the basement and then move out and then have to like keep my stuff elsewhere while I was finishing the keep. It made sense to have all my storage in the basement and then just kind of finish this floor by floor.
And this is some of the fun stuff that you've thrown in here, like shields being used as the banners hanging above the fireplace, like a little kind of crest of sorts up there, and like the little subtle touches of like there's pale oak wood in some of the walls around here. The cyan stuff helps everything kind of feel a bit more airy and light, even though this is once again that kind of wood and stone aesthetic that you have to try and find creative ways around. But there's like little subtle things like the candlesticks and even the sort of throne room at the end here having more of like a cyan light blue kind of element to it really adds a bit more color that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And it's got that stained glass thing of, you know, it feels a little bit more obvious what the color is when you're on the inside of it compared to on the outside, where, you know, you're not necessarily paying attention to the color of the glass, you're looking at the scale of the building and everything.
Thanks. Yeah, it's one of the few buildings that has stained glass. I think most of the buildings, the windows are trapdoors and wide open spaces. And then in this building, I used glass. And I think maybe one of the fancier buildings over on the west, I used glass as well. But it's one of the few spaces. This was also one of those builds where, you know, I've been at this for so long that I was just never quite happy with it. It just needed something. It didn't feel fancy enough. It didn't feel like it had the right touch. And once the pale oak came out, I was like, you know what? I might be able to work that into Westhill, because at some point in the last year, I decided that the Westhill colors were going to be white and cyan and navy blue, and so the white wood, embedding it into the pillars here and being able to help things feel just a little bit fancier. It's nice within context. The pale oak looks like a marble or a white stone. If you put the pale oak in a wood build, it looks like white wood. And so it's really a really well done texture, in that it's very flexible in Minecraft, and that you can use it in different contexts and have it work as different textures.
Which way does it make sense for us to go? Through here, up the stairs? Or...
Kitchen is going to have a lot of fun details. So this is kind of like the working kitchen, where you've got obviously access to the outside. You'd have things coming in, being brought into the keep. And we've got like armor stand fun with a big hunk of meat, stuff being hung from the chains and whatnot. I'm happy with the way that this came out.
You've got the sort of folded towels or like tablecloths or whatever up there with the snow layers and like little bits and pieces like that all make sense. Yeah,
snow layers and birch trapdoors do really well up on shelves where you can't see the top of them. It just feels like something folded and stuck up there. And then through the throne room is another really fun build, and that is the library and the dining room. So again, with the blue glass and making it feel as fancy as I could, right?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense having some of the decor in here, like a sort of pattern rug or like, you know, flooring ends up that color as well, and that helps even if you don't have shaders or anything with like the lighting kind of changing color as it comes through the windows. You still get the aura of blue coming from this area with the windows being that color.
Yeah, it's really fun first thing in the morning, of course, because the sun comes up right out there, and so and with the shaders on, you've got like the beams of light casting through, and it's really, really fun. And these are all just back rooms with closets and stuff, and then we've got like a connected hallway. This goes to the kitchen, but this also is like the back of the kitchen that goes down to the basement, which you'll recognize from having finished it just recently on the Spawn Chunks and talking about it. This is the distillery down underneath the keep.
This is where the magic happens.
Yes,
this is where the mead is brewed,
and probably the most copper in Westhill. So I figured that you'd probably appreciate
of course
being down here.
I'm a connoisseur of such things, but having seen this a couple of times in recent screenshots, like I think the really fun parts about this are having like a drainage channel in the floor so that like the floor can keep a little bit dry in a situation like this where there's all sorts of liquids being used for various things. And yeah, you mentioned that there are even like little kind of hidden passages here and there where it's not immediately obvious that there's a space tucked through the wall over there. But because I know about them, I can kind of walk over here and go, aha, there's like
Yeah,
a
exactly.
section down there with candles at the end of it so that the light can catch your eye, and lots of like little hidden things about this.
Yeah, that's the one functional redstone thing in the whole build is actually a secret passageway. And actually what you're looking at here, this actually connects to the moat that we looked at before we walked across the drawbridge.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the water from the moat actually is what drains through the basement and then goes through into the other side. But since we're here, if you want to see the piston door, I can show you the alleyway.
Absolutely.
This is more of a function. This used to be where I would go to come into my storage area. This was my bulk storage. So we probably have to go one at a time just because of the timing, but it's this pressure plate that triggers it. And then you just kind of go around the corner and follow the light. And then you'll end up in the hall, in the alleyway.
Nice. Aha.
Yeah.
There it is.
And so that just brings us out into this little alley. And this was like I need to go back to my storage room stream, and this is where I would go. It was just a door, as you mentioned before, like a door with a trap door on the back of it. Not a trap door, a pressure plate on the back of it to close it behind me. But when I filled it in and made the distillery, I was like, well, a door here doesn't make any sense, but a secret door would make sense. And it was fun to do the redstone live on stream. So I'll just go back through. Yeah.
Nice.
Perfect. Yeah.
Smart.
It's fun. It was a really fun thing to do. And then back here we've got the space for a dungeon and some lighting tricks with some stair windows to make sure that it doesn't get too dark. There's also some sea pickles underneath the carpet just to kind of illuminate it just enough so it's not completely dim. That's more of a shade. That's more of a shader issue. Without the shaders on, you can see everything just fine. But all of this is just storage rooms with different levels of custom crates and custom designs and things like that. And then you might recognize someone as you walk through here.
Yes, I was going to say, I was wondering where this room was. I thought I'd open a few doors until I found it. But
Yeah.
yes, I've been beheaded and strung up here as an example to those of you who don't make backups of your worlds. So
Yeah.
consider this a warning.
Yeah, back up your worlds, everyone. So this is, of course, Pixlriffs on the right and Steven ESC on the left, who is a member of the server, hasn't played in a while because he's been so busy, but also the co-host on the Citadel Cafe with me. So I've got my two podcaster co-hosts in the basement.
Yes. And this is our microphone in the center, probably.
Just a piece of netherrack with quartz in it that looked like what a third party that is unidentifiable, I guess.
Long since deceased. Yes. Yes. Well, yeah. Which way should we leave?
To the right. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the drain for the water that comes through the end, and that actually connects to the river that you looked at underneath the keep earlier.
Right, a little Easter egg.
Easter egg. So that kind of goes out that way, which is fun. I like connecting stuff like that. I find it very, very fun.
Excellent. Yeah. Like just the use of space and like understanding where everything in this build is, having been doing it for so long, I think is such a crucial detail. And like, you can go through and like absolutely blitz a build, but you don't end up with that level of consideration being paid to it from having actually lived in the space for so long. That I think that's one of the things that sets this apart from other stuff I've seen, is like the sense of interconnectedness of it, and the fact that the space has been used for long enough that you sort of know where all of these little details can fit.
Yeah. Speaking of interconnectivity, we can actually leave out this way and just go up the tower, and this will pop us out to the throne room. It's a little dark.
I also like the fact that you've managed to cram in a couple of these little details, like the rail and barrel and stuff that's down there, but without doing it absolutely everywhere so that everything feels too busy. There's a point at which stuff like that, those little details can feel like noise.
Yeah.
And you've managed to like definitely like pull back from that, but I don't think it's necessarily in your nature to just want to detail stuff for the sake of detailing. Like a lot of it has to feel like it contributes to the lived-in nature of the world.
Yeah, it has to make sense, and it has to feel like something is missing from that space. And a lot of it's hard to express. It's more like just a gut feeling, like this feels kind of empty. I should probably put something here. Whereas, like, I don't want this room to feel cluttered. I want this room to feel clean and grand, and very presentation ready. We can actually go upstairs, and there are a couple of spots. That's the back. So here's one detail is down here is that you can actually go into the main hall and look down on it.
Oh yeah, you've got like a little. This could be like a musician's gallery almost.
Almost,
if you
yeah.
Like the kind of violinists up here serenading the people as they
Yeah.
dance in the room below.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is fun little details to put in. This exits out to the back where you can see a good look at the bell tower. And so there's always wall access at different levels throughout the keep, as the guards might have to get around. And then as we go over here, this goes over the throne room and looks down over the main hall left and right. And then that just continues up the tower that we were on. But the main bedroom and the top of the keep is actually a really solid place. So again, kind of getting fancier as you get up into what I guess would be like the magistrate's room. So it's a very we don't have a lot of space in Minecraft, so I kind of had to make this just one room, but was able to kind of come up with some cool ways to make a bed and kind of come up with different closets and things with some of the sub-block details.
And sit in the corner here and enjoy the view here. But no, that's great. Like, yeah, I think there's something to be said for again the color uniformity here. Like you've got the blue orchid and the glass and the soul lantern and the enchanting table and just these like little subtle touches that I remember seeing this on an episode of the Spawn Chunks where we were sharing screenshots of it and thinking like, yeah, that's all really, really well chosen for the theming of the area.
That's something I think maybe the art background helps with. It's just like making sure that you're using colors that work well together, complementary colors, that kind of stuff. And this is one of my favorite views, is coming up to the top here. There's a couple of towers on the keep, and it really doesn't matter which one you're on. Sometimes you're just like a few blocks higher than we are here, but it's such a cool, dense vibe to look out around the town because the keep is so central. You basically get a lot of detail no matter which way you look. There's just a lot of stuff. And it's a really good reminder of just like how much work I've put into this. Not to brag, but it's just nice to kind of go, wow. I've had server mates that have dropped off some materials, but it's just been me building. Like I've been the one placing blocks, and it's a little wild to me sometimes to go like, man, this has been a long time coming, but it's really rewarding to finish up on something like this.
I mean, you've been doing it for several years now, and you've actually finished a project in Minecraft. So I think you've earned the right to brag a little bit.
That's fair.
I think people will allow you at this point.
Yeah, and I will point out I have not finished all of my projects in Minecraft. just a few, but this is one of them. But yeah, I'm definitely guilty of the it's done enough for now.
Yeah. No, I can count the amount of finished projects, especially on this kind of scale, that I've ever done on like the fingers of one hand. So you're fine.
Yeah.
And the people in the chat are agreeing. PeopleHC says if you can't brag after doing something like this, I don't know when you can. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about this situation. It's like you've earned the right.
Cool. Well, I appreciate it, folks. And thanks for the kind words in chat. I'm trying to read both at the same time. And Hunter555, thanks very much for the sub. I really appreciate it. Especially if anybody has subbed today to myself or Pixlriffs. That's awesome because, of course, September is on and you get to save 25%.
Yes, you could also consider, if you like the sound of our voices and you aren't already, supporting the Spawn Chunks podcast, which is where Joel and I talk about Minecraft every week on a Monday. thespawnchunks.com, where you can also find us on Patreon. And right now we've just started doing stuff like annual memberships on Patreon. We just finished our 7-year anniversary discount, so you've missed out on that, but there are plenty of other things going on the Patreon.
Yeah, the annual discount, or the annual memberships are like 10% off. So this is where Westhill starts to wind around into the Western Quarter, as I call it, and that's where things get a little bit more interesting. We've got things like a Fletcher. We've got another inn, which is much more fancy than the other inn. There's a flower shop, candle shop, that kind of stuff. So I really like the inn. This is the Spruce River Inn, and it has a lot of really fun details inside. Things like putting like a fireplace poker leaning up against the hearth, candles and barrels and details. And this is, I feel like the Western Quarter is, after doing the Eastern market, I really got a handle on medieval building, and I really started to have like a flow, and I really started to understand internal spaces and like how to add detail to them without adding bulk to them, and really kind of getting things to just enough detail to say like, this hasn't been forgotten about. This is something that's going to sell the idea, but I don't have to like spend like crazy amounts of time on it, but I can also do it in a very small space and get things done. And we also ended up getting things like the chiseled bookshelves, which helps in terms of adding details and subtlety without adding a lot of repetition. There's more rooms upstairs, but they're just kind of more of the same in terms of like level of detail and stuff. And we'll swing back up along the other side. First, I'm going to probably sleep here in a minute. This is a pretty fancy house. This is where you'll see like the difference between like the one room houses where there's like the bed and the kitchen are kind of next to each other. In these places, they're usually 2 floors. They've usually got some sort of like hearth sitting reception room or something like that. And then they've got an upstairs. This one in particular actually has a tower that you can go up to the top on. But then there's like the bedroom is kind of like nestled down in there. And
a
then,
little mini ender chest and stuff in there as well. It's like, all these little, like a jewelry box or something would be on the top of the dresser.
Totally, right? That and enchanting tables. If you can get the enchanting table high enough, it looks kind of like a little jewelry box too.
Yeah.
Getting close to sleeping time here. But this is another really cool view up here of like, kind of like how dense the Western Quarter is. I don't have any blocks out here to stand on, but there's just a lot more trees. And that, I think, was the biggest thing, was that this is where I was kind of encroaching into the taiga forest, and I didn't have to really cut anything down in the Eastern market because that was the original Minecraft village. And so there really wasn't many trees, 1 or 2, nothing special. But here I really tried to only cut down trees that I had to fit in a build. And as a result, it's much denser and it feels fancier. You know, like when you're walking through a city that has a lot of old growth trees in it, it just feels more lush, right?
And it feels more private and secluded, and like the residents of this part of town, obviously being a little wealthier, also have a little bit more privacy, like the stuff that their money can afford them. And obviously a lot more variety of materials as well. Like at this point, you've gotten a few things, like there's a build here that's made out of quartz and prismarine, which is sort of unheard of throughout the rest of the town.
Yeah, there's a lot of very special builds over on this side, and I think it helps set it apart from the other area, and in a way that would probably be very true of like the class separating themselves, right? The rich people trying to stay rich and the poor people trying to get rich and all that kind of stuff. We've got different little shops, like candle shops. I really like the florist here on the right, so we'll pop in there. And shout out and thank you to CPFC in my chat. They said, the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Me and my son play survival all the time, and we can't seem to stick out a world. I absolutely love this. Well, the trick is to just resist the reset. Just play the game of yes and. Accept what you've built and continue on, or build on top of it, or revamp it. But you really, if you can just keep going, you'll find that you'll reap the benefits of building consistently in a world. It just takes time. And I feel like the whole game of yes and is really something to work at in Minecraft, because you can always travel a couple thousand blocks away and keep going. Like, you don't have to reset. And I think that it really helps with the density, because sometimes you might get inspired and be like, oh, wait a minute, I've made these 2 builds that I really like. What if I connected them? And then all of a sudden you've got a plan that just going to kind of keep on going, right?
I like this a lot. It looks like you've sort of walked into a shop where somebody cares so much about plants that they've had to put them on every conceivable surface.
Yeah, it's one of those people that likes plants more than they like people.
Yes, but having like, even like the trowel over here and like the little kind of composter, and having shears on the desk and everything, and then obviously like a lovely back garden, and having the spore blossom especially just kind of adds that sense of this. There's always going to be pollen in the air. There's maybe even going to be like little insects kind of buzzing around, and now we're getting falling leaves as well because of the recent updates to Minecraft that have just kind of added in these extra particles that lend life to spaces like this.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun to do. And this is a really fun example of like, this is not super big. Like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 10 blocks maybe from here to the back gate. And I really like being able to put like little custom things nestled in. It's a fun challenge once you start building. I think that just goes out the alley, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
we
like
can
out to the front.
we can go back out that way. It's just one of those nice things where you can take the time to add in these little features, but then you've got the challenge of like, I had already built the house next door. I think I had also built this yellow place, and then I had to put in the flower shop. And I thought, well, now I've got this little box behind everything, and maybe it would be like a communal backyard. So like there's the yellow house has got access here, but the other one doesn't. I think they actually have their own backyard. Like you just kind of do the stuff that makes sense at the time. There's no grand plan. You're just kind of going with the flow. But by layering in the details, I think that really helps the density of things.
For sure. Shall we sneak out the alleyway and back into the main street?
Yep, and then just hang a right, and we'll probably just go straight down to the main square here. So this is a spot where I think really shows off the scale of the houses and the buildings over on this side compared to the other side, where we've got like a dockmaster's build. We've got another bakery that has a little bit more detail and some living quarters upstairs. And then there's also an armor shop behind the flower stand here. And that is just kind of an example of like the different kinds of things that are being shown over here. It's not all just like food and essentials, right? It's more like, oh, well, you might be able to afford armor, or maybe you're getting something shipped into the town. And so it's a bit of a fancier vibe, I think. And as a result, the builds are kind of like a reflection of that.
Yeah, there's more room for like luxury goods and things that aren't just the bare essentials that you need to survive. And yeah, that really kind of adds to the feeling of like class divide and the way things have to come together to make a big community like this.
And then this is the other side of the moat. This is where the moat drains down into a little canal, and that actually travels underneath the main square. So of course it's all built and bricked in, even though no one really goes down there. It's actually not textured, but like it's actually constructed. And then it actually comes out the other side here and drains into the river. So again, like the kind of like taking the water and making sure that it connects to places where it makes sense, I think has been you started talking about this kind of stuff on the Spawn Trunks with me. And I thought, I have the opportunities to have that happen in Westhill, where rivers and other bodies of water, whether they're man-made or not, just drain down into the regular Minecraft bodies of water. And it's really fun to kind of like, I think that canal was there before that tower was there. And I thought, it would be really cool if I actually moved the canal over a couple blocks and then turned the tower into like a tuning fork design that kind of like spans the underside of it. And just, those are the kind of things that like I didn't think of when the build first started. They just kind of came to me as I was going.
And then we've got this lively dockyard area, all sorts of crates. And this is where you were talking about like having the barrels and crates and different takes on each of those. Oh, we got a storm rolling in as well. I didn't even realize.
Yeah, this is actually a very big surprise that it has taken this long for rain to happen on the server. Normally it's every 15 minutes. I'm just constantly just like, ugh, I can't wait. Hopefully it'll be a thunderstorm that I could sleep through. But at the same time, it is kind of a vibe. Like when you're here on a rainy day, it is kind of a vibe for the medieval gray that happens around Westhill.
Do you have lightning rods up here?
I don't, but we don't have fire tick on the server, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I will sleep up here nonetheless, because I think it's also nice to do these tours in the sunshine.
Yes, yeah. And you found a bed, apparently.
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I just ran through a series of doors until I encountered one. I'm like, based on what I've seen so far, there's going to be a bed in this house somewhere.
Pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
The mini game is finding it.
Yeah. And so this is another good example of like wanting to make sure that the experience of standing on the dock or at any kind of look off has got just enough custom experience to feel Westhill and not necessarily vanilla Minecraft. So there's another dock and a path over there. The landscaping goes around the bend, and on the little bit of land out there in the middle of the river, they're not custom trees entirely, but the tops of them are. So there's just enough to kind of like make it feel like not quite vanilla Minecraft, but it probably was just a tree that grew there at some point that I just kind of tweaked to make it look like it was custom.
Yeah, just kind of add some stuff to make it look like it's been shaped by the wind a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, stuff that's grown a little bit higher. If there's a couple of treetops sticking out, then they can just curve slightly. And yeah, you don't need to do much. It's like when people do custom trees that are really just the bigger oak trees, the ones that you can kind of grow with a couple of blocks next to them to guarantee that they grow the big ones. And then you just add a couple of extra leaves to them, and they just look a lot more natural than the sort of lollipop trees that you get the rest of the time.
Yeah, I've absolutely done that when you just need a custom tree and you're just like, this is going to be something that I need to tweak. We'll take a look at the gate here. This is one of the few angled builds in Westhill.
Yeah.
And it was a real challenge to get done, but I'm really happy with the way that it came together. Excuse me, especially the gate. Like, I really like the way that the gate, because it's on an angle, it really feels like it can move.
Yeah, and you've got like everywhere throughout where you've got like a portcullis or a gate that needs to sort of slot into place, has like a lock to it. You've got droppers in the floor to make it look like there's a place that it can kind of be anchored to. And I think that's obviously like a pretty smart move in general, like showing the threshold of something besides just having it be there for the sake of like the realism of the town.
Thanks. I'm sure this wasn't my idea. I'm sure I picked that up from Jermsy Boy or Fwip or somebody that's done it in the past. Probably Mythical Sausage as well.
Yeah, I think I've used that trick a couple of times.
Yeah.
I think maybe even the castle on Survival Guide Season 1 had something like that. But yeah, it's just a neat way of marking out where the door is supposed to be when it's closed. So if you've got it open like this, then at least you can kind of see that.
And this is another good example of when Deep Slate came in. It really started to help out with doing different textures that looked like metal, but we didn't really have anything other than like iron bars, and they're kind of white and shiny. I sometimes would use my black nether brick to look like metal, but I really find that the polished Deep Slate and Deep Slate could be used to try to make it look like some sort of wrought iron work for closing the gate and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Out here is a really fun look too. I really like the western approach to town. It's a nice custom landscape on both sides. Some of it's just natural trees, but everything on the left is kind of like a custom thicket with some texture work and stuff. And it really is a fun, cozy approach to the town compared to the look of coming in the main gate with from the north, right? With the big towers and everything. It
sort of feels like coming in through the farmland is like spring and summer. This feels more kind of autumnal, especially with like the spruce leaves falling on either side now.
Yeah.
Even though people will argue that spruce leaves don't technically exist, I think it's kind of nice to have them sort of drifting across the road as you're standing here looking up at the gate.
Yeah, I really like the vibe over here. It's a lot of fun. And I mean, there is some stuff upstairs. It's all the kind of like same military stuff. We can kind of poke through this way and kind of take a quick spin. Adding in details like hanging swords on the wall. These are armor stands. Some of the armor stands in the data pack have settings to like, flush with wall. So it's kind of an easy setting to kind of get it up there. And same thing in here where I've used them for like armor stands and bows on the wall, and just to kind of add that kind of detail where like it makes it feel like a barracks, or the guards of the tower would kind of live in that space. And of course, just like everything else, you can walk through and look out the windows. Everything is all kind of like set up to be, player scale, defensible, that kind of stuff. And again, it's one of those things where it looks really cool and decorative, but what was inspiring it was function. Like, I couldn't see out the windows, but it looked so good from the outside, and I thought, okay, how am I going to make the inside where this makes sense? And so you end up with these little stepping stools, I guess, to kind of get up there.
And making sure it doesn't feel too sort of homogenous and bland with like occasional things like blast furnaces and smokers turned away, so they obviously don't look like furnaces, but like little kind of storage boxes and crates and that kind of thing.
And this will be one of the western towers. Again, it's a really nice view of some of the larger builds. So you can look back over the western quarter and see like the manor, and go back, like you can see the square from up here, which is really nice. And everything's connected. So it's kind of fun to have this level of detail up here, to just, no matter which way somebody walks and decides to go up a tower, you're going to have a cool view.
I still think the arch of that sort of roof dormer section there is a triumph. I think it looks so good architecturally that's such a fun build.
Oh, thanks, man. We'll head over there. Actually, we'll head back down, and we can actually go right down to the bottom of this tower, and it'll pop us out in an alleyway by the blacksmith, which will be the next build on the way over there. And actually, speaking of the manor, having river access was always really fun for me. And it really does give some cool views, like when you're down low on a big build like that. And it really kind of gives like the scale of the mountain, and because it's one thing to look at it from above or in a tower, but when you're actually at river level and you're looking at the Westhill, which is like the mountain that gives the town its name, it's just a sheer rock face. And I remember seeing stuff like that when I was in Utah, and it was just so cool to see, and it was really fun to recreate here.
Did you at any point get skeleton horses in this area? Because I just noticed one up there, so we may
Yes.
have had a visitor after our thunderstorm.
No, they've been there for a year or two.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I was a little curious if one of them had spawned and we were about to get attacked. Although I'm still
No,
in creative mode, so I don't think it'd be a problem either way. But I
no.
think it'd be quite funny if that thunderstorm had left a surprise guest.
Yeah. So this is the armor smith on this side of town, and this was a really fun
Ah,
build to put the extra detail in. So same idea with like the molten metal and the coals, and having like a bellows with control, and having a shield and a sword kind of hanging from chains, all done with armor stands, of course.
yeah.
And then there's some inside. There's some ore blocks and things that kind of look like they would be jeweling the armor. Things that would probably go into like armor trim in Minecraft, that kind of stuff. This was all set up before armor trim was in the game, though, so I hadn't like gone and got armor trim to like put on on the armor stand on the wall.
Sure, yeah, but like the concept is there, so you can kind of do something custom with it. And this is one of the things that, armor stands aside, I really wish we could do in Minecraft more, is just like have equipment leaned up against the wall or something like that. There'd be like a couple of ways that could really improve the life of builds, because once
Hmm.
again, stuff like this, you don't get blocks that are on angles like this because everything is snapped to the grid, and so
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting to have shields that way. I can only imagine that people would just use them as like roof tiles if it was possible to do this without armor stands. So
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
that's why we don't, but yeah, I think it's kind of fun to see stuff like that pop up from time to time.
Well, you could finally get your blue roof, because then you could put them on. You'd use the banner shop to
Yeah, yeah,
put
absolutely.
things on banners. And this was a lot of fun to put together, because I kind of made like a dye shop down here, and you don't really have any colored water in the cauldrons, but you can kind of make it look a little colored with the prismarine underneath the slabs, or
Yeah,
underneath the
yeah.
water. That kind of stuff has been fun to put together. I don't think there's anything upstairs other than just storage. Yeah, no, it's just a bunch of wool and different things that look like spools of material.
Yeah, no, I think that coral is a really interesting choice for that, where it can look like sort of it's been wound around a central core of some kind,
Mm,
and like you've just kind of got sections of it just kind of shoved into a barrel. Like it could be like resting on its side with the red coral, and like I think there's some really neat applications of those blocks. I also like the fact that the prismarine barrel here is built in the similar fashion to the one that you had in like the fishing hut that's
yeah,
in the Lowtown area, but
yep.
like used in a completely different context and with enough separation that you maybe forget that the original detail was there, and you can kind of consider it in its own context.
Yeah, it was fun to kind of come up with different ways to do that. And any excuse I had at this stage in building Westhill to add color was just like, I took the opportunity, because it was just so much gray and so much brown that it was just any opportunity to put in color was just fun. Like I felt fresh whenever I did it. This is like a back road, or a way through some of the really fancy places. So this particular place is the manor, and it's got its own entrance. It's got its own different texture and walkway. I'm not exactly sure who lives here, but they are very well off, and
Hmm.
they have a really grand hall. I was having some fun with textures and stuff in the floor, and this has got the same amount of like paths to get around as like the keep. Like there's towers to go up.
Yeah.
There's a kitchen in the basement. There's all kinds of cool stuff, and including that dormer that you see from the outside, we can actually access from the inside. Should be kind of fun.
I really like the approach to the carpet here. Like, it's a really fun use of glazed terracotta, which a lot of people don't get much use out of in games. So, a fun way to incorporate that into the build. And again, the cyan kind of showing up in neat places like this, blending it with the wood around the outside by using the brown accents in that terracotta.
Thanks. Yeah, it was fun to kind of come up with, and nice to realize that I didn't have to use all terracotta. Like I was able to use some warped wood. I was able to use some wool. There's some gold blocks in there. Like it's anything that I could do to make it look like a really fancy carpet. We've got, obviously some mobs have been walking on my pressure plates, but I've got a nice view here of, this is just, we're up high from where we were just a few minutes ago, down below on the river. It's one of those things in Minecraft where the walls are just so thick, it's kind of hard to get a view down, right?
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but it's kind of a fun, very secure view. You know, like you've got this giant wall and this giant rock face. It just, you feel very safe in this house.
Again, this person is buying the ultimate in privacy by living here, and certainly seems to be able to afford it.
Got a small pathway that goes outside, and then we can go downstairs into the basement. And this is something that does have a lot of detail, which is the kitchen that would supply, you know, all the food for upstairs. And just, I really started to have a lot of fun with armor stands and making different furnaces and different, what's the word I'm looking for? Like medieval kitchen designs. It was hard to come up with new ones because very often you place down a furnace, you place down a cauldron, and it kind of feels done. So to try to come up with more unique stuff was difficult at first, but it's been good to do.
You've got like a barrel of salt in the corner for like seasoning or curing the meat and that kind of thing. Like there's like all these little details. Again, fish hanging up to dry and all that kind of stuff.
And cool. And you can't have a rich manor without a secret passageway that leads down to the water. So if you need to smuggle anything in, you absolutely can.
Yes, or leave in a hurry if people come knocking on the door.
Yeah, exactly, right?
You to pay your taxes.
Yeah. So stuff like this has always been fun to add in to the builds. And anytime I can put in like a secret entrance or a path that goes under a road, I absolutely do that. And of course, there's a little private back garden.
Little like covered area, like shaded and you know, protection from the elements.
This was just fun to kind of like get out of my comfort zone and start building things that I just normally wasn't building in the other designs. Like it was fun to. At this point, I had enough medieval building, I think, in my repertoire that I was able to like get what I wanted quite easily. There's some space challenges. Like sometimes you'd have to be like, all right, well, this is kind of hard because it's the same side of the wall. Like I have to figure out which texture I prefer, and then this, of course, is the dormer that we were looking at earlier. And what's so fun about this is like it acts as like a balcony for the main bedroom, but then it functions outside decoratively. And so I'm really happy with the fact that I've been able to make things that look good outside also function from the inside.
Yeah.
Right. And then the dormer, of course, from inside here is actually just like a second level of windows for the main hall.
Yeah. So light can kind of filter in from the top, and you get a bit more of that morning sun. Cool.
And then we'll just head back out. And really, there's only a few builds left here.
Well, that brings us right up to our time, so I think that's great.
Yeah, so we've got just a fancier house here. This is the one with the beehives and the roof. There's a garden between them. That's a fun little build. So we can just pop up in here. And so again, trying to add things to these builds to make them feel more lush, more rich. Having your own little koi pond says, I've got money, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And so it was really fun to kind of put all this kind of stuff together. And even have like the extra textures, having books in the main room, stuff like that has been a lot of fun. Anything that has like a covered entrance feels really good. And then the last of the bell towers is here on the east, and this is just its own standalone thing. Nothing fancy other than just like stairs up a tower and a nice view, but it was fun to kind of use a different texture and just kind of have these towers around the 4 cardinal directions. Really kind of ties everything together, I find.
Yeah, definitely. Like having one on each of the 4 compass points does make a lot of sense, both for like the design of the town, the fact that you'd be able to hear bells ringing
Hmm.
from any conceivable angle, or the fact that, like, if you had to ring a bell because somebody was invading from the north or whatever, then which of those bells is going to be ringing, and
Yeah.
yeah, makes a lot of sense.
And this last build is something that I really enjoyed. This is just like a detailed house, but its position, I think, is the real fun of it, is that it's just right on the edge. It sits on the river. You've got these cool views of like the actual Westhill wall, and there's a little sluice gate underneath this walkway to the right, and pathing that just everything that I could do to have river access has river access. And
Hmm.
I just really like I think this was shortly after Deep Slate came out. I could not wait to build a house that was dark. Like
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
I
yeah.
really wanted something. And it's just, I mean, the top parts are just like more bedrooms and the kind of things that you've seen already. But it's just been fun to try to play that game of yes and like put something on the edge of Westhill that's in the rich, western quarter, but then also is not exposed to the outside, because like there's this giant rock face, there's a river between, here and there. And I mean, you can walk around near the river. There's paths that go all around in the basement. Really, really fun. And if you want to, we can just pop into the air a little bit and scoot over to the west, because this is the last approach that we've not seen. We did talk about this recently on the Spun Chunks, but the road
Yeah.
here just kind of peters off into the distance, where somebody might build another kingdom. I might come back and build something west of Westhill. I don't know.
Hmm.
But there's also some cool landscape out here that just kind of screams like build something on me, right? And
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, there's this sort of outcropping of land there, and forest hills and
yeah,
that kind of stuff. And again, all of this is really interesting to come back to as somebody who's been playing in caves and cliffs for the last 2 seasons of Survival Guide, having had that terrain.
yeah.
Like, it's really interesting how distinct this feels as an artifact of an earlier version of Minecraft.
Yeah, it's been fun to kind of give these areas and these roads these nice little bows that, like, it's not finished. Like, obviously it ends, but it kind of suggests what could be there. Like, your imagination can kind of fill in the rest. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this is because when you come back to town, when you approach the town from this side, you get this reveal of Westhill as you get here and come over the pass. And it's different than when you're walking straight at it, because the keep features really prominently. The western
Yeah.
quarter feels really prominent. There's lots of fancy roofs. So Westhill feels much fancier, I find, when you come in from this way. And this just leads us right down past the marshland and the Spruce River, right back to where we started.
Fantastic. Well, that feels like a perfect place to wrap things up for the tour, unless you had anything else you wanted to cover quickly before we conclude the stream, or at least my
No,
stream. I'm not sure if you have plans for the rest of your day.
no, I do have to get going as well. This is great, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. I mean, the only thing I can say that if people really want to see something built, then on Joel Duggan VODs on YouTube, there is a playlist for everything. Westhill is in the Citadel playlists. It's all separated by year, so you can figure out what year you want to go back to. But all the VODs are labeled quite clearly, like Bee Farm Part 1 through 12, or Keep Tower, or Western Bell Tower. All that kind of stuff is just labeled. So if you see something and you want to know how I built it, almost everything. I can't say everything, but I'm pretty sure that almost everything in this town has been built live on stream. I don't do creative work. I don't typically play Minecraft when I'm not streaming. So it's all been here, done live. And so there's a VOD archive on YouTube of the entire thing. It's hundreds of hours. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily a playlist you want to sit down and go through the whole thing, but it's definitely something that you can go through and pop in and see, like, where I was in 2022 and where I was in 2023, that kind of stuff. Especially as Minecraft has had new blocks and different things released over the years. It's been a lot of fun.
Just doing a quick spectator mode sweep around of everything, and, like, again, the panorama of this is just phenomenal. Like, all of the little details really shine in all of this, and so yeah, you should be very, very proud of everything you've done on this project. It's fantastic, and it's been a great 4 years of talking about it on the Spawn Chunks. But once again, uh, we can always move on to new things, and Minecraft gives us the opportunity to try out lots of stuff in different styles. So yeah, you're planning a sci-fi area as your next big thing, but I'm sure that will happen in due time. And for now, I think it's worth taking the time to just revel in what you've created here.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you coming on, and it's been so much fun to show you around because, of course, I've been talking with you about it for years, and to actually have boots on the ground, it's a different vibe than just seeing screenshots. It's been fun.
I think one of the things we talked about on the podcast a little while ago was how fun it would be just to have somebody who had no idea what any of this was just kind of explore and see what drew them to it. And obviously I've had a little bit of insider info about this, and you shared it as you've gone, but it has been really fun to be be that person exploring this in well, sort of in survival, I guess, like
Yeah.
from ground level at least. All right, well, I'm gonna hop off the server. Thank you once again for inviting me, and yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to you on Monday's episode of the Spawn Chunks podcast, because
Yes.
of course Minecraft Live just got an official announcement for the end of September. So I think we can probably say that the next time Joel and I will be appearing on Twitch like this will probably be for Minecraft Live for the end of 2025. And we'll see what exciting stuff Mojang has in store for us.
Yeah, and we normally do that from your YouTube, not your YouTube, your Twitch channel, but we might be able to do this co-stream thing again and have that going on both of our lives. I mean, I think it would be a really good idea to try and use that, because it's a really fun event to cover live.
Yeah, we can combine chats and stuff. Now we know how that works.
Yeah,
especially.
exactly. It was actually really simple.
Yes. Yeah, it seems to all work pretty well from a Twitch perspective. Right, so I'm going to log out there, and we'll wrap up the Discord call. I will stick around on stream just for a little bit to say thank you to a few people who subscribed whilst we were streaming, and then I will get going for the day. But enjoy the rest of your day, Joel, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what you've gotten up to before Monday.
Cheers, man. You too. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, have a good one.
Cheers,
Bye
man.
for now.
Bye. Well, folks, thank you ever so much for hanging out. Word Nerdify, just jumping in there with a tier 1 sub, subscribing for a total of 38 months. That's amazing. Thanks so much for supporting for such a long time. I am going to wrap things up here. I do need to go. I've got some things I have to take care of today, and it's a little bit late for my lunch, but I'm going to go do that as well. But I've been really looking forward to doing a tour for Westhill. So now when people ask about it, we can direct them to this video. I'll be able to edit this and put this up on YouTube. I'll probably put it up as the full VOD, and then I might chop it up into like some smaller VODs as well for people that want to watch in like 30-minute chunks or something like that. But we'll have the full thing available on Joel Duggan VODs on YouTube as soon as I can. I'm going to talk to Pixlriffs about it and see if we can't also put it on the Spawn Chunks YouTube channel. We might put it up on the Spawn Chunks Patreon page first. But because it is one of my VODs, I'm probably going to put it on my channel. So we'll talk about where we want to put it for the time being, and have everybody have access to it. So if you have any questions about the build, stuff like that, I'm always able to answer them when I'm streaming. Even though I might be in other places on the server, then it's still something that I very much can answer live when we're all hanging out. Thanks for all the follows. There's a number of people that followed. I wasn't able to stop and thank every one of you while we were chatting. It is challenging to have a live chat room and have a conversation with another person at the same time. So, because while Pixlriffs is talking, I'm trying to listen to him and I can't read at the same time because I'm not a person that has that capability. But as we mentioned, you can tune into the Spawn Chunks on Monday. We're going to be talking about the upcoming Minecraft Live, what we might be expecting to see there. There's also going to be probably some snapshot fixes for the Copper Age drop, which is coming out. We don't have a release date for that yet. To my knowledge, it hasn't hit release candidates yet either, so we'll have to keep an eye on when that's going to happen. We might have more information about that next week after the show. You can also listen to the Citadel Cafe wherever you get your podcasts. That's another podcast I do. Steven, the other head that was in the dungeon, is my co-host on that. I'm Joel Duggan on social media and Joel Duggan on Patreon if you'd like to support this kind of work. This kind of creative work in Minecraft and other games that I do is made possible by you. And you can support here on Twitch during September, or if you want to check out patreon.com/Joel Duggan, you can get access to my Discord that way. And I'm actually thinking about adding a free tier to the Discord that just gets linked to the announcements channel, because we've had some people say like, I'd love to see you live, Joel, but I never get a notification. I don't know when that happens. And I do stream live Mondays through Friday at 10 a.m. right now. Saturdays is 1 p.m. for me. That's Atlantic time. But the announcements channel in my Discord is absolutely the best way to find out, because I put everything in the announcements channel. I tag everyone when we go live, And it's automatic actually with StreamerBot whenever I go live on Twitch. So it's pretty easy to catch up on that kind of stuff. And make sure you don't miss a stream. It's also a really fun community. I'm biased because a lot of them are my friends, but it's a really chill place to hang out, talk about Minecraft, talk about other games like Satisfactory. There's a City Skylines conversation going on right now, as well as No Man's Sky. It's been a lot of fun. So I really appreciate everyone being here. Make sure you go follow Pixlriffs if you haven't already. Usually people that follow me already follow Pixlriffs. It's not usually a if and or but. It's usually a yes to both. But it's PixLriffs if you're watching this later on YouTube and you want to go follow. Pix on YouTube has the survival guide. He does a lot of tutorial stuff. We've had a lot of people write into the show to say like they've learned how to play Minecraft by watching Pixlriffs. Really, really cool content. And of course, he streams on Twitch. Same username, Pixlriffs, and does not stream just Minecraft. He streams Minecraft predominantly, but he does Chair Obscura. He recently started Hollow Knight, and also I want to say Elden Ring was another big one in recent months. So there's lots more going on Twitch than just Minecraft for both of us. I do Satisfactory. I'm thinking about trying to do some more No Man's Sky. And I do actually have to mention that there probably won't be a stream tomorrow for a couple of reasons. I am in the process of doing a return with Lego for the Soundwave set. The set was just so damaged when it arrived that I've decided to try and return that, and that's taking longer than I thought. So that set might not be accessible to me until that's been sorted. And then also I just have a lot of things going on this week personally. So I need to potentially not even stream tomorrow at all. I don't know yet. I'll have to let everybody know. But keep your eye out on Twitter and keep your eye out on the Discord. If I can squeeze in a stream, I will, but there's a good chance I'm going to be pretty busy tomorrow. So thanks ever so much for coming in. I really, really appreciate it. And I will see you Saturday, I believe, for the next stream. But again, keep your eyes on the Discord, keep your eyes on the socials. Thanks, folks. I will see you next time. Bye for now.